Definitely not. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Stirling Cooper here with you, and I've got my good friends in the studio, Mr. Rollo Tomasi.
This is my first time here.
His first time here in our lovely house.
Be gentle.
Yes, and I'm never gentle, Rollo. And my good friend, Mr. Jay Waller. Thank you both for joining me.
My pleasure.
Before we get stuck into, we're going to have a very interesting chat today because you two have met a couple of times and you both hit it off straight away.
Oh, yeah.
And it is a great opportunity for everyone else, I think, to chime in on what will be a very unique conversation, I think, between the two of you.
Sure.
And I want to jump in and chime in on a couple of things we talked about earlier. But before we get into that, we have Rollo's debut musical career. No, actually, no. What am I talking about? Because you're a rock star. What am I talking about?
Boy, that happened back in 1988.
Is this your first time doing a music video though?
No, this is actually something that I produced.
Okay, you
I'm
produced
not
it.
actually. I have no creative control. This is all Kevin Savo stuff. I wanted to put this on Fresh and Fit when we were on there, but we just didn't have the opportunity or the time, whatever. But this is Kevin Savo he's a independent filmmaker. He's also a rapper. He's a 25-year-old kid. Yes,
25-year-old.
25-year-old guy, and is a hustler like I have never seen. I don't mean that in the bad sense. I mean like he's really busts his ass. He has a day job too on top of all this stuff. And so he's the guy who is producing the Say the Ho series that I just recently did a cameo in. And then he's also a part of a group called the Fellas, most of which I believe are his actual brothers.
Huh.
And so he's also a rapper. Who isn't, right?
Right.
But he's a rapper. And I thought this was really, really good because it kind of, I don't know. I guess it scratched the right itch for me at that point because it reminds me of like old school, like Beastie Boys kind of stuff.
Right.
So,
but it talks about a subject near and dear to our hearts.
yes. Well, that's I wanted to also say that is that like, I'm working with him because I'm finally putting my money where my mouth is,
right.
Which is like, I keep saying, guys, if you want to go out there and you want to do something, you want to push back against the narrative. I say, if you want to make $1 million, you want to be a millionaire, push back against the narrative. It's the idea that what was it? Roseanne Barr on ABC when they reissued that show like about 2 or 3 years ago. I think it was 2017, 2018, something like that. It was the number one show on ABC, number one show in the country, right? Because it was pushing back against this sort of woke narrative. And then of course she starts mouthing off as she will do, right? And then rather than say, okay, we're going to finish out the season, we got a great show here, let's finish the season out, whatever, ABC decided, nope, we're just going to kill it.
Yeah.
Right. It's dead. And no explanations or nothing. We're just done with it right there. And I'm like, was the number one show in the country at that time. And so think about the financial loss that they're willing to take as a result of their ideological thing. And the reason for that is because it was so popular, it pushed against the narrative. It was doing something that wasn't being done at that time and still isn't being done right now too. And so I've said this like 100 times. If you want to make a lot of money, start writing red pill stories, start writing red pill characters, start writing red pill music, we have to create the culture that you want to have there. So people keep saying, oh, they're taking Star Wars away from us. They're taking Lord of the Rings. They're taking all these great things and they just, remake these things and just insert this narrative that is just ruins a classic franchise. Well, that's going to happen. So you know what you have to do? Create something new.
Yeah.
And so when I see somebody creating something new and I go, I was looking for projects, I was looking for people who are pushing back against the narrative. And I said, okay, let's check this out. And Kevin approached me and it wasn't in that context. He's just like, hey, I'm an independent filmmaker. Check out Save a Ho here. And it was funny and it was relatable. And if you are red pill and if you're in the manosphere, you will get what the messages are, and even if you're not, you'll still laugh at it because the situations are funny, and it's meant to be sort of like 70s pulp kind of detective kind of thing. But Save a Ho is actually like he's the blue pill beta guy who wants to save hoes, and that's the whole thing. Yeah, and so you laugh at it, and so therefore it's not so dead. It's like a documentary. It's like something you can sort of get into, and you wait for the next one. It's like a serial kind of thing. And so I saw that and I go, man, this is great. And he goes, oh, check out this video I got. It's called Thought Mommies in the Club. And I listened to the song and I'm like, oh yeah, I want to get into this. So I've been produce it. I for lack of a better word, I got producer credits on Save a Ho, and I've got producer credits just from working.
And you're in this music video.
I do cameos.
He has a cameo in this music video.
Save a Ho and this.
Okay,
so
well,
you will see
good too. Looking real good.
Yeah,
all right.
It was fun. I've never been to Connecticut before. It was in Connecticut.
Are you ready? Are you ready to share everybody?
Go ahead. Fire up.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Let's without further ado, I'm gonna take up the whole screen.
That's fine.
And then everyone can see that in its full glory.
It's only about like 2 minutes.
Bang.
Night I was down at Life, chilling at the club. Chill with this girl and she was dancing. And it's about 2 in the morning. I'm talking to her and realized she had like 2 kids at home. Now I don't mind the 2 kids at home. That's all good. I'm like, what the fuck is you doing in the club at 2 in the fucking morning on a Wednesday night? What the fuck?
Thy mommy's in the club, she gon' need a babysitter, call a babysitter. She gon' need a babysitter. Thy mommy's in the club, she gon' need a babysitter, call a babysitter. She gon' need a babysitter. Thy mommy's in the club, she gon' need a babysitter, call a babysitter. She gon' need a babysitter. Thy mommy's in the club, she gon' need a babysitter, call a babysitter. She gon' need a babysitter. Thy mommy's in the club. I ain't never had a problem with a bitch. Young fly, yeah, nigga getting rich. Hit the club, got my bitches on the list. Drop some commas on some Prada, better holla cause I'm lit. He probably wonder where his mama at. Got DCF on the steps and the welcome mat. But my service with a burden, I'ma give him a brother. And if the youngin' get the wallet, he had camp for the summer. She fucking with me cause she know that I'm bout that. MKZ be the whip with the loud pack. 4 hoes deep and they latch to my belt strap. The crib reek of weed in the streets probably smell that. In the club, she gon' need a babysitter, call a babysitter. She gon' need a babysitter. Thy mommy's in the club, she gon' need a babysitter, call a babysitter. She gon' need a babysitter. Thy mommy's in the club, she gon' need a babysitter, call a babysitter. She gon' need a babysitter. Thy mommy's in the club, she gon' need a babysitter, call a babysitter. She gon' need a babysitter. Thy mommy's in the club.
The club stops for nothing. She gotta get that party out her system somehow, and the bar's still jumping. So get your squad to meet with my squad in the car, straight bumping your favorite song about how men ain't shit and hit up the function. Only thing that can stop me is if a baby daddy run up on me. I'm with your baby mama, but she ain't got no baby body. I'm in the blazing sign. I've been rocking with the lady drama, product of what I drop, and I ain't about to waste a condom. Her last man had a problem with Ativan, and if he find out where she's hanging, he'll get in his battle stance. Now the club ain't no church, and the church ain't no club, but she's happy to get her drink on and leave with a broke bum. And they'll call this misogynistic, like booty popping and pimping, cause I'm trying to fuck, but I'm also wondering where her kids is. And girls wanna dance to songs that refer to women as bitches. If you let your kids dance to it too, don't cancel me for tripping.
Mommy's in the club, she gon' need a babysitter, call a babysitter. She gon' need a babysitter. Thy mommy's in the club, she gon' need a babysitter, call a babysitter. She gon' need a babysitter. Thy mommy's in the club, she gon' need a babysitter, call a babysitter. She gon' need a babysitter. Thy mommy's in the club, she gon' need a babysitter, call a babysitter. She gon' need a babysitter. Thy mommy's in the club.
Hold out, bruh, now you buggin'. You pay a lot of money for your kid and now she stuntin'. You working for a living, but she sippin' and she puffin'. You try and hit a line, but she fucking so she dubbin'. I ain't stressin' by the hoe, I been getting up my money. She saying that she loyal, but she fucking with your buddy. And shawty let it clap on the snap for everybody. She say she went to college, but the hoeing what she studied. I know you wanna backtrack, skipping that tap. One mistake and now your life changed, saying that's that. She get it poppin' with her bitches and she make it rack slack. Now your baby got no dinner, only eating fruit snacks. Leave a message, little bitch. Why you playing with me? I seen your ass up on the snap, you should be laying with me. I pay your rent and all your payments and I'm hating to see. I heard you got a babysitter, I ain't paying the fee.
Mommy's in the club, she gon' need a babysitter, call a babysitter. She gon' need a babysitter. Thy mommy's in the club, she gon' need a babysitter, call a babysitter. She gon' need a babysitter. Thy mommy's in the club, she gon' need a babysitter, call a babysitter. She gon' need a babysitter. Thy mommy's in the club, she gon' need a babysitter, call a babysitter. She gon' need a babysitter. Thy mommy's in the club.
There you go.
There we go. That got some good reviews from everyone in the chat. That actually bumps. I like this one. Almost 15,000 views so far. Hope the video is on the alternate platforms too. Take that.
Yeah,
whop. And we got we got a super chat from JB. Thank you very much. $4.99. Greetings, gents. Find Coach Greg Adams hilarious. He is spreading Red Pill truth about human helping men. What's your beef with him? That was quick. It didn't take long, Roller.
What?
Someone's asking you what your beef is with Greg Adams.
It's not me so much, but
There you
that's
go.
a long story.
That's a very
long,
complicated
very long story.
thing. We're not here to talk about that today. You said something during the middle of that during the middle of that film clip, I want you to tell everybody.
Yeah. It's pretty simple. You know, let's say you go to a bar or something, and there's a bunch of girls dancing around, let's say, a Lil Wayne song, Drake song, whatever, that's blatantly saying, I'm going to cheat on you and I'm going to do whatever I want to you. And they absolutely love it. And what I find about that is I actually think that they wouldn't leave Lil Wayne or Drake. So the point or what I see about the subject is basically this, is like, if you're a certain type of guy, you can get away with it. But if a guy that's not Lil Wayne or Drake or high status does that, then she's leaving.
Yeah.
You know? So they kind of talk out of both sides of their mouth when they do that,
Well,
in my opinion.
It's convenient hypocrisy is what it is. It's
Yeah.
convenient to, depending on what their most, like that woman's most immediate need is, that's how convenient it's going to be for them to either accept it or get behind it. How many White Claws does she have in her? That kind of stuff. I mean,
Right.
I hate to put it in those terms, but I've worked in liquor for a very long time.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I know the realities here. I'll tell you the other thing is, like, when we were on the show on Fresh and Fit 2 nights ago. Yeah. And the girl that was on your side, who was just, really, kind of dreamy eyed. Was she in the business? She's in the business.
Yeah, she was a stripper.
She's a stripper. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I was doing my best because they'd already Myron and Fresh had already put on the clip of me and the Save a Ho thing. And I was really hoping to get this on there, but I was like, okay, maybe, we're kind of already like 2-3 hours in. But like, so I was bringing up I think at some point in the show, I brought up the fact that, like, should a woman, when she has kids, should she then sort of recuse herself from the sexual marketplace or the game or whatever? And every single girl at that table was like, no, what? No, you got to go get yours, girl. And of all them girls, the girl that was next to you there was, because she was a thought mommy, right? And she had her kid was probably at home with a babysitter, or probably with mother or something. Yeah, I don't know what the situation was, but when we start talking about shows that hold women accountable for their actions, I think we tend to focus a little too much on like the guys that they want. Like, how can you possibly want a guy who's like 6'4" and he makes $100,000 a year? That guy is like, makes and is like, a high, like defining a high value man. And so one way, I think the most popular way of holding girls accountable right now is to sort of like make them see the reality of the fact that they're delusional when it comes to trying to find the guy that they think that they deserve, right? They are entitled to that guy, right? Fine, you can build a whole show, you can build a whole, section of the manosphere based on that. But when you hold them accountable for the kid being at home while she's on a Fresh Fit show, ooh, watch out.
Oh boy.
Yeah, you want to talk about getting kicked off the show for fighting, that will be fine, because you're exposing, or you're making women accountable in a way that they are very uncomfortable with. They can laugh it off and say, oh, what's the percentage of finding a guy who's 6'4", makes $100,000 a year, 6-pack abs, that kind of stuff. They can laugh at that. They can't laugh at thought mommies in the club. We can with the thing. And that's one of the reasons why I love this video so much is, and I hate to be analytical about it and dissect the whole thing, but it's funny because it's true. And it's also very an uncomfortable way of holding women accountable. So I see this sort of accountability stress, I guess, in the manosphere right now. So if that's the direction you want to take your podcast, or you want to take your subject matter in the manosphere or whatever, think about other ways you can do that, because the idea of like your prerequisites for a guy are unrealistic. That's been done to death. Nobody's doing, where's your kid?
Yeah. Huh. You think I just think people would fucking come after you so hard.
Oh yeah.
And they would like,
and that girl would have come out and scratched
like
my eyes out.
Vitriolic retribution, like hell hath no fury, would just come raining down upon whatever medium you were putting that out on.
Do you remember well, I don't know, I do, because I was living in Florida at the time. Do you know Casey Anthony, the Casey Anthony case, where she essentially killed her kid, but she got away with murder, put the kid in the trunk, everything. Was a huge high profile case here in Florida for a while. Everybody thought she was going to go, they were going to send her up the river, and didn't happen. The prosecution did not make their case well enough for the preponderance of evidence, whatever, right? So essentially what happened right after that, and this is back in the early or the late 2000s, I think, like 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. And of course, once that happened, everybody in the red pill community says, "Oh man, kill to party." That was the thing that the meme, I guess, that had come out, which is women when they get to become like single mothers, and yet they haven't optimized hypergamy, if they haven't found the guy who's supposed to be, who they expected or they believe they're entitled to, is not forthcoming, they still have to put themselves back into the sexual marketplace. And so women will, get the babysitter, right? Get somebody to watch a kid so that she can still play the game and hopefully, squeeze the last little bit of sexual market value out of whatever it is she has left. And I think I mentioned this too, is to that one girl on Fresh and Fit, the black girl with two kids in there. And I said, "Do you realize how much of a disadvantage you are at right now?" So one would have been enough. Two? Yeah. I said, the idea that you would be entitled to a guy who is like the upper echelon of guys is very slim, and very, the guy, more likely you're going to meet the guy who wants to be sort of like a save a hoe, right? He wants to go in there and save and be the dad who stepped up. And so, but that's not the guy that they want ultimately at the end of it. So they're out in the clubs, they're out there, working it and trying to optimize hypergamy. I mean, the ultimate cause anyways is trying to optimize hypergamy.
Was that the girl directly to your left?
Yeah.
Okay. That same girl also said that she would take a simp to go home to every night and then have a guy on the side. And that she absolutely said that, because I was sitting on the couch in the background. Like, she absolutely said that.
I remember.
And so, I don't even think she cares very much, honestly.
No, and I've written extensively about this. Yeah, there's an essay for this, by the way. But it's I was the myth of the good guy, and we were actually kind of covering that a little bit there too. Is there's this idea, and remember the girl that was right next to me, the nice, good, quiet girl, looked like she was getting ready for Bible study. That girl right there. Ideally, I want the nice guy who's also, exciting and fun and everything. Like, yeah, good luck. That's the optimal. That's hypergamous optimization. The guy who's still exciting enough to like get you off and make life unpredictable and still be fun and everything, but yet he's still dependable, loyal, blah blah blah. It's very similar to the Madonna whore complex that a lot of guys have. They want Jenna Jameson in a bed, or give me. I'm dating myself. Give me a porn star name. They want that girl in the bed. They want a porn star in the bed, and they want a good mother for their kids. Same thing I think is now, because here we are, 60 some odd years past the sexual revolution, and this is how far we are into the experiment. And now women are realizing that the guy who is the best of both is not believable. And so he's either too much one way or too much the other way. So what do? They try to satisfy hypergamy with two guys. You want to know why? Like poly is where we're trying to normalize poly, or we're trying to, like, at least ostensibly, like in a social context. It's really because of what you were just saying. The girl wants the hot guy on the weekends, and she wants her beta guy to watch the kids while she's out there banging the alphas. And then when she comes home on Monday, I felt so bad. And then now she restarts the cycle again. And she's got the nice guy who's the beta provider, and she's got the alpha seed guy who's the fun guy, hot guy in the foam cannon party. And so they try to balance those two. The problem is you can only do that for so long. You got to consolidate on one, and you usually can't get the hot guy to commit.
Even if she gets that hot guy or a good guy who's in good shape when they start out, I notice that the more time you spend around a woman, the more that energy. You and I talk about this a lot. The reason we spend so much time together is if you're around a woman too much, I don't even blame the woman, but she's softer, she smells good, she's warm, and it just makes you lazy. So you start to balance out, and then you start getting fat, and you stop losing your edge as a man. Next thing you know, she doesn't respect you anymore. And if she doesn't respect you, she doesn't love you. And the precursor to that, and I've said this to you, is like, fear equals respect equals love. Well, if she doesn't have any fear that you're the quality of man that could actually replace her, or is getting more attention from women, then why does she want you? And then the next thing you know, now she's looking for that second one, because you're now in that kind of that cuck role or that simp role, and now she's going to find Chad.
Yeah. And that's the first thing, like, guys will tell me is like, "Hey man, Rolo, I lost the frame We used to have sex so much, like, for the first 3 months. That's how you get the honeymoon period, right? Oh,
Right.
we used to have sex like rabbits, and then now that we moved in together, and now that we're comfortable and familiar, and we have all this stuff, now now it's sort of like whenever she feels like it, kind of thing. And it's like, I signed a lease and I don't know what to do. How do I get out of it? And it's like, yeah, because I mean, you probably heard the old adage, which is, familiarity breeds contempt, right? Well, the reason why they say that is because when you become more familiar with that person, you kind of get like complacent with that person as well.
This is it. Forgot up a little bit. There we go. That's better. There's something I've mentioned a couple of times in this last week on a few other people's shows, is like, a woman can't, like, you need the space when you're apart from one another. That's when a woman
Polarity
falls in love with you. She doesn't fall in love with you when she's around you. She falls in love with you when she's away from you, when she's apart from you, when she misses you. That's when she starts to fall in love with you. And she creates this idealization of you in her head. And even today, like, as another example of that, look at Instagram. Like, we put out these sort of idealized highlight reels of who we are, and women use that as a measuring stick for the guys that they find attractive. They're like, look how many followers he has, but look at the lifestyle he portrays on his Instagram. That man is not that person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right. But
she creates that fantasy of him in her head, and no man can live up to that expectation. So you're actually shooting yourself in the foot by, I'm not saying don't have a relationship, but by being around her all the damn time, you are shooting yourself in the foot, because you're destroying that fantasy she's created of you in her own head. But if you create space, you allow that energy to still foster and still grow, that flame to still be there.
Dating today is brand management.
Yeah.
Okay. I somebody sent me an article not too long ago. I want to say it was like in like Vice or something like that. I'm not really sure. And yeah, I know Vice. Okay, whatever. But it was this woman who had created an app that was very similar to like sales funnel marketing, but it was meant for getting the most amount of guys to respond to a particular, like, I mean, in this case, a profile or whatever is in funnel marketing, it would be like an email, right?
Yeah.
And they were praising this girl for this app that was essentially promoting what Myron has always said, which is, it's a numbers game. You've got to keep running numbers. You got to treat it as if it's brand management, because everyone that is their own brand. I'm my own brand. Both of you guys are your own brand. Even kids in middle school right now who have an Instagram account, they're their own brand, and they're building that brand right now. So when you go and you look at people on the internet, or you look at Instagram, like you say, it's the highlight reel, but it's a highlight reel that needs to be managed in such a way, like you would almost want to have a PR agent managing. You are your own PR agent for the brand that is you. And so what happens is, when women find you, or you, like, even if you just met them in a club and you actually did an approach instead of just like meeting them on Tinder or something like that.
Heaven forbid you talk to a real woman in real life.
Women fall in love with the brand, not the guy who is behind the brand, the guy who is the brand. And I mentioned this, I think, a couple times on my own show, and I've written a couple of essays, the most recent essays, about when it's getting to the point right now, I think, certainly in the manosphere, with some guys, right, where I have to say, I want to talk to the man. Talk to me like a man right now. I don't want to talk to your brand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't care. You're Stirling Cooper is not your real name. I know that for
knows
sure.
That, yeah.
Okay. But that's your brand. And so right now, Rollo Tomasi is talking to Stirling Cooper.
Yeah.
We turn all this off of here, and I want to talk to the man, and so we can have a real conversation. What happens is, when you have that as the sort of the precursor, it's almost like the third wall, when you're breaking down the third wall of the audience kind of thing. When that is how you're starting your relationship with a chick that you see, even if you met her in the club, but most likely you met her on Tinder, or you met her on through some app, you're interacting with the brand, not with the girl behind that. And so usually it's a marriage of convenience at that point. It's like, do I want to co-brand with this guy? Most girls, like, they're very open about this. Like, I'm not going to put him on my Instagram until I get a ring on it, kind of thing. I'm not going to put him up on, because that is when a woman has you pictures of you on her Instagram and promotes the idea or promotes the image or perception that she's with another guy, what do you think happens to her brand after that? Guy, it's going to reduce because it's going to have less interest, less engagement, because they go, okay, well, she's already taken. Right? Women are intimately aware of that, and they know exactly how to manage their own brands, because if they go and they put you on there, they put pictures of you on there or whatever, then now you're the girl who's already taken instead of the girl who could be available, for the right guy.
And that's what I was saying. You want to jump in real quick? So on the show we had the other night on Fresh Fit, one of the things, like the question I sort of finished off the show with was to the girls was, how would you show loyalty to your man? Right. And it was kind of funny watching their responses, because that's like, we talk about like it's satisfying a man is not that hard. It's real. Like if you write it down on paper, and Myron even said this, like most guys could give you like maybe a list of like 3 or 4 things that they would want in a woman, apart from beauty. Right. But women will give you like a laundry list. Right. And for me, and for a lot of guys that I know, loyalty tends to be very, very high on that list. And when you ask women, okay, how would you display your loyalty to your man? All the answers these girls gave had nothing to do with loyalty. For the most part, it was like, it was more acts of service, and it was more like I would suck his dick real good. I mean, okay, cool. You should be doing that. And that kind of like goes with the territory anyway. But when I suggested things like, one girl had a good answer, which was, I deleted my Instagram. Like that kind of shit is like the things I suggested to them were delete your Instagram, no male friends. What else did I say? I can't remember. There was like a couple of things I said off the top of my head. Trips. Like, going out to the club or bar, basically the same as no girls trips. Yeah, no kind of fucking Vegas, none of that bullshit, right? But it's like proactively taking yourself off the market, off the table. And when I explained that to them, you saw the looks on their faces. They're like,
because
what?
It forces them to sacrifice something. It forces them to sacrifice the commodity that is their sexuality.
But that's the thing. It's like, what are you willing to sacrifice to keep that man?
Right.
If you have a man that is the real deal, and because the one thing they had in common, all these women had in common, especially the ones who were a bit, shall we say, past their prime, Rollo, were saying things like, how do I keep the 2 girls to my left? So very repeated, said often, like, but how do I keep a man? But how do I keep a man? Well, this is how you keep a guy who is like top notch. You just demonstrate that you are willing to sacrifice the like having options,
right?
And that is what actually shows commitment.
Being so sure of your choice in that guy that you don't have to be asked to do something like that. I think when you say that, when any guy says that, like, if you're going to be my girl, then I want you to delete your Instagram and delete your socials and don't go out with your girls and that kind of stuff. You do that, what happens is as a man, when you say something like that, it makes it sound like you are insecure about that stuff, and that's not what the operative point is. The point is that should be something that she wants to do on her own, unasked. But because I'm saying this, I'm saying, well, here's some examples. Here's some things you could do. Yeah. Just me saying that makes me sound like I'm insecure in my masculinity, because it's like, I don't want you seeing any other guys. Like you're becoming like mate guarding, and you're becoming possessive or something like that. When women get that feeling, what they're saying is that, okay, so this guy is not worth my sacrificing what I would need to keep him around. So therefore what they do is they go, well, they make up their own social conventions, which we see right now, which is any guy who would ask you to do that, he's insecure anyways, right? I want to be the CEO of my own life. Well, if you were really with a guy,
good luck with your cats.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I'm a grown ass man.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah.
Well, it's like, you should want to do that organically, naturally, as a manifestation of genuine desire for the guy that you're with.
But I'll disagree with you here slightly, Rollo, and I'll say that I think most women these days.
Yeah, I don't say it will.
Well, yeah, but they've got no idea. Their whole life they've been proactively taught the opposite of how, like, they've proactively been taught how to not please dudes, really. Mm-hmm. So they've got no idea. Like, even if I think genuinely, even if a lot of women wanted to try and please their man and try to demonstrate that, they wouldn't even have a fucking clue how to.
Right.
Because this what we're talking about, these ideas are so far removed from like mainstream society because that's the general reaction to it that they wouldn't even contemplate it.
Oh, yeah, that's a result of the prime directive of feminism too, which is never do anything for the express pleasure of a man. Because if you do, it's kind of like, like when guys like in the sphere, they'll say, why are you going to the gym? Are you going to the gym because you want girls to like you more? Well, that's the wrong reason, right? You should want to go to the gym for you. And it's like,
tell me that at 14 years old.
First of all, why can't it be both?
Yeah,
you should want to go to the gym for health reasons and keep yourself healthy and lift heavy objects and stuff like that. I go, yeah, but a good side benefit is like chicks really want to bang you because you look good, right? Is that okay? Can I do that?
And that's simply primal law.
Yeah, it is. But
that's all that is.
But the thing is like, so what happens is women, that's a very feminine way of thinking. It's called the crisis of motive. Like, why do you do the things that you do? Like women will go, I wear lingerie all the time. I wear it for me. I don't wear it for men. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Like if I go over to your house at 4:00 in the afternoon and you're going to be vacuuming your apartment in lingerie, or are you going to be vacuuming your apartment in sweatpants and some, dirty t-shirt, right? But the fact of the matter is like we do things to impress others, to put an impression upon others, and to optimize our chances in the sexual marketplace. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem we run into right now is that feminism, like 60, 70 years of militant feminism anyways, which has taught women to be strong, independent women. And what that means is independent of men. I don't need no man. I want a man, but I don't need no man. No, you actually do need a man, but you've been taught through 4 generations of this shit, right, that you should never do anything for the express pleasure of man, because once you do, you go against the directive. Because if you want to be a strong, independent woman, you would never do anything for that man. The man always does stuff for you. Yeah. You are acted upon. It's like, what is it? Hypo agency. Like the world happens to you instead of you happening to the world. And what happens is women never get to the point where they meet a guy who they would break the rule for. And that's really tough because most women will, they feel vulnerable and out of control when a guy who is like a much higher value guy actually takes interest in them, because now it's like they have to do something for that guy. It flips the script. Instead of like having guy, oh, can I buy you a drink?
That's
it's
correct.
Like she wants to qualify to him at that point. And that goes against the narrative that is, never do anything for the express pleasure of a man. It's on him. He has to keep it fresh. He has to be responsible for the romance. He has to work on the relationship all the time. He has to do all these kinds of things because she's the one who judges his performance all over and over and over again. Tell a woman she has to perform for a man and suddenly you're a misogynist.
Get angry.
Go.
I'm not mad. It's so much. But you're absolutely right. I think that they screwed women over in that regard at that time. They asked women to be women and men at the same time.
Right.
The truth is a woman truly does not want to be a man. She simply wants a man to be a man. And in regards to that Instagram thing, I absolutely know for a fact, and he knows that I'm not lying to you. If you're seeing me, I have your Instagram. It's on my phone. And that's because you have to take it. You have to take your places, man. You have to be that kind of man. And then naturally, it's just like when you I'm not trying to be graphic. If you were to grab a girl's hair, you know how she likes that dominance.
You're worried about being graphic on my YouTube.
Yeah. So when you grab her throat, and she likes that, I believe truly that you can mentally grab a woman's throat and take command, but you have to have enough confidence in yourself and know that you're in that place where you can actually take that role on with conviction. And once you do with conviction, she wants to give you that Instagram or get off. Those girls are shit girls, so they get shit men. And there's a very large lack of real men in this world. Like we were laughing about earlier about talking in person. I used to have to get off the school bus, one of the last generations, to get off the school bus, throw my backpack down and go try to find a girl and kiss her on a fucking trampoline. Also the same generation that were getting fist fights in the yard and had my ass whipped by my father. And so that men are not willing to confront women in the same way because they've been trained that they're a bad man if they do it. But if they can do it and stay in the frame and be with conviction, and he's actually a good man, fitness, has his money right, doesn't have to be rich, doesn't have to be 6'4", has money right, has a little bit of fashion, pays attention, and tells her this and holds his frame and treats her like a lady at the same time, and if she gets out of line, set her right and be consistent, I think guys would be surprised at what they could do with a girl.
Most guys are not comfortable with asserting authority. They won't give themselves permission to assert authority because they don't. Most guys, like when we talk about the 80-20 rule, right? When we talk the guys who are like the upper echelon of guys, the 20% of guys who are getting laid, like even of those 20%, how many, like maybe 10% of them understand that they realize their value to women, and therefore they act accordingly, and they are comfortable with asserting masculine authority. The rest, like the 80 to 90% of the rest, are permission seekers.
Yes.
They're can I please, mother may I be an alpha now, right?
Well, this is what
never genuine.
I see a lot of guys. I see a lot of guys asking the questions like, how do I get my girl to do X? Like as an example of how do I get my girl to delete her Instagram? How do I get my girl to do this?
Tell her.
That's exactly, and that's my answer. That's the fucking answer.
Let her know where the road is. If not,
because that's the thing. Like you like, has it never occurred to these men to actually tell them? I'm genuinely curious, guys, because like I get that question in the comment section a fair bit. It's like, how do I get her to do things? Well, you say, baby, either do this or we are not in a relationship anymore. Right. You have to be willing to walk away from the relationship.
There has to be dread. There has to be the drawing line. There has to be a fear of loss.
Fear equals respect. Equals love. The end.
Well, like, and the other thing is, you don't have a real relationship unless you have boundaries. Because if even in any context, like if we don't have some kind of boundary between the two of us as friends. Like, so as friends, for example, we have certain rules. Like, we don't fuck each other's girls. We don't even talk to each other's girls. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's rules, there's boundaries. That's what a relationship is built on. Same thing applies with women. It's like you have to set. Here's the border in which we play and we have fun. Because otherwise, like when you don't, women like what's the old Pip and Ken saying? Without instruction, they're headed for destruction. Women need that. They need the boundaries and they need guidance.
Structure.
They want the structure.
They absolutely want the structure.
Yeah,
they absolutely do.
I mean, you look societally at when you're very permissive with whatever it is that you say, okay, ladies, it's on you. You have all the power. Do whatever you want. This is where we are. This is what happens to a Western society when we do that. This is, again, we're still 60, 65 years into the experiment that is, go for it, ladies. Go do whatever you're going to do. And here we are.
It's absolutely failed.
Yeah. And so that's on a macro level. On a micro level, when it comes to, I said this before, guys will say, should I give her an ultimatum? Should I tell her what's up and lay down the law and set my boundaries? I go, no. You know how you do that? You do it. If she crosses a boundary, she incurs the consequences of crossing that boundary. Demonstrate, do not explicate. So if she says, guys ask me this all the time. Hey, Rolla, my girlfriend wants to go to a girls' night out, or she wants to go to a weekend in Vegas with her girlfriends, and she asked me permission, and should I let her go? Blah blah blah. And I go, the problem isn't her asking you to do that. It's the problem isn't you being put on the spot for that, or you being she's forcing your hand kind of thing. The problem is that she's asking you in the first place, like that she thinks that it's a better use of her time, or if she's going to have more fun with her girlfriends down in Vegas. And you know what happens in Vegas when she's with her girlfriend? She's ostensibly with you, but she's asking you permission for like a hall pass to go, essentially to go out to Vegas or whatever. And so you're put on the spot. If you say no, then suddenly you're an insecure man. Yeah. If you say yes, then you get what you had coming to you, kind of thing. So my solution to this has always been to say, you know what? You tell her, yeah, go on, have a good time. And then when she comes back, all her shit's out on the sidewalk.
Right.
Locks are changed, or you've changed a dress or whatever, because that's demonstrating the boundary instead of trying to explain the boundary to her. So if you go and say, look, bitch, if you do this, then I'm out of here, kind of thing. That's an ultimatum. And ultimatums become declarations of powerlessness when you don't have the power. You're basically saying, I'm so powerless here that if you don't do what I tell you to do, then this is what's going to happen. No, you enforce the freaking law. You don't talk about the law, you enforce the law. Let her, again, it's like you can tell a kid not to put his hand on the hot stove, but he learns a much wiser lesson if he puts his hand on the hot stove and he says, see, he's my hand.
Right.
There's a consequence that goes along with that. So when it comes to establishing boundaries, it's much better to establish them by consequence than it is to by trying to beat them over the head with these are the rules and here's how it works.
I think you can actually foreshadow it. I truly believe, a lot of these girls,
you can use passive dread. Don't get me wrong.
Well, not really passive.
She will learn the lesson more if you enforce the consequences of those boundaries rather than talk about those consequences, because then you become all talk.
I think it's a man's job to build a woman. We talked a lot about this in Europe. If you know from the start that you need to begin to set those frames and tell her, hey, look, this is where I'm at, sit her down. You don't have to be an asshole to her. Yeah. You can actually do it with respect. And then if she has a question on it, you can explain to her why. No, sweetheart. It goes back to the Lamborghini example that we always use, all of us, she's like, well, you don't trust me? Baby, of course I trust you. But I also trust the locks on my Lambo. I'm not going to park it in the ghetto. Why would you park a relationship there? Why would you want to? Dude, if a girl really loves you, she doesn't want to go on a girl's trip,
Exactly.
And
she's not asking you that in the first
she's not going to ask you that, but you do need to put it in her consciousness that is the frame and the guideline.
Yeah, that's my point about this thing, is that modern women are so delusional.
So normal that
it's so normalized. It's so normalized. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Even good girls.
How would they when 80 to 90% of guys are simps for them, or
and that too?
How can I help you?
Let them get away
of service.
Well, 80 side saying go do your thing, girlfriend in Vegas.
Exactly. So you got that.
If you have a good girl and you set the frame, she's going to want to. She's got my girl talks shit about her girlfriends on those subjects. They want me to go to a girl's. I cannot believe them. She didn't love him. She didn't respect him. I'm like, yeah, good job, baby. Tell him.
Yeah, and you're reinforcing that.
But you have to put that in because
it's like taming of the shrew. At the end.
And the thing is, I promise you, and I know this because I've seen when women follow a man, when a man builds the relationship and builds the woman correctly, she feels like she's getting better around the man. He is that man. She's way happier than her girlfriends that are married.
Yeah.
And I have experienced this myself.
Well, I've experienced this myself I've been married for 25 years now. So it's like, I love it when my wife shows me examples of doesn't she realize she's with a good guy? Doesn't she realize, why would she be doing that? She'll show me examples and not in popular media, just maybe it's people that she know or whatever. And it's good because it also when women recognize other women's shitty relationships, they tend to appreciate how good their relationship is too. Now, I've talked about this so many times. I've been blue in the face, but what we're really addressing here is dread. And dread, and people hate it when I use that term because it sounds like dread, dread, make her dread. That's not what I mean. It's this innate, or you were talking about imagination. It's this innate understanding, not so much a fear of loss as it a fear of loss, yes, but also an appreciation for what you have in light of what else, what her girlfriends have or whatever else is going on in that girl's life. To have a really good relationship with a guy that a woman can look up to and respect and see as her alpha and see as the guy who holds frame and the guy who has masculine authority, unapologetically has masculine authority, and look up to that guy, and then look around at all of her other girlfriends who don't have anything remotely like that, or they're single mommies into 2 kids or whatever else it is, plus whatever the wreckage of their lives happen to be at that time. And she's not only is there a fear of loss of you, but there's also an appreciation for what she has at that point. You want to talk about how to make a solid relationship. I keep saying this. It's not necessarily overt dread. When guys go, look, bitch, if you don't do these things, then I'm out of here. That's overt dread. Yeah. But what's way more effective is passive dread, third party dread. When her girlfriends go, damn, your husband's looking good. Boy, I wish I had a relationship like you had. Boy, you guys seem to be, you're going to stand the test of time. Boy, I wish I had what you had, kind of thing. When other people are, it's social proof and it's pre-selection, and it's really difficult for guys, particularly for the 80%ers, but even guys who are 90% guys, the guys who are the top 20% of guys that women want to get with, it's once you get into that relationship with that woman and you become familiar and you have that comfort level that's going on there between the two of them, the opportunities for social proof and pre-selection from within an LTR, a long-term relationship, become rarer and rarer. And so you have to look for those opportunities. So one of the old things we used to say back in the seduction community, I think it was Royce who said this, is like I think it's one of the 16 commandments of Poon, right? Make her jealous. And not like, I'm going to make you jealous. It's, if the opportunity arises, don't dissuade the jealousy, lean into the jealousy. So if you're at a club or you're at a restaurant or you're at the bar or whatever, and the waitress or whoever is flirting with you kind of thing, don't dissuade that like most beta males will do. Oh, baby, don't worry. You're the only girl for me. You know, I would never go out with her. I can't believe she did that to me. Right. That guy just blew the shit test. Okay. Instead, you lean into it, because women want a guy that other men want to be and other women want to bang. And so when that third party pre-selection comes into being, it's not, most guys will like try to defend against it, and they'll try to, comfort the girl because they don't want to lose out on the only pussy that they're getting, right? Lean into that.
That's a problem in itself.
Yeah. And then lean into that so that when the waitress is flirting, you flirt back a little bit, or you go, well, what can I do? All the ladies love me. Sorry, honey. That kind of stuff. If you even if you get a little bit of cocky in that, it's better than leaning the other way, which is, oh, don't worry about it. And that's passive dread, because it's a third party that is initiating the dread in the girl that you're with. And that's the most obvious illustration of it. There's other illustrations of it as well. Sometimes your job can be the other woman. Sometimes the people who are demanding your time, making you and reinforcing the idea that you are the prize in the girl that you're with, that can be enough to reinforce passive dread. So there's lots of different ways. People always focus on the most like obvious ones, like flirting with, like a girl flirting with you kind of thing, because that creates the most indignation in women. But there's other ways of creating passive dread that help reinforce that relationship. And again, as you guys were saying a minute ago, the key to a healthy relationship is polarity. It's that, I'm still attractive and women still, want to get with me. And I'm also a high value guy because I handle my shit, but I'm with you. Because women, when it comes to their reinforcing their ego, that is reinforced by the guy that they are able to get with. So if a woman is with a high value guy, it is ego satisfying to that woman, because what that says is, I got this guy. He's a step above me in sexual market value. Other chicks want to get with him, but I'm the one he gets with. Ha ha, you bitches. That's the mentality of it anyways. So the ego association for women, like women's esteem, is intimately associated with the type of guy that they can get with. So when a girl is trying to like break up with you, usually she breaks up with you like 6 or 8 months in advance, and it's just a formality to leave you at that point, because she's already banging a personal trainer or whatever. At that point, she's somewhere along the way, she's already decided that she's out of the relationship.
Oh yeah.
But it was what you just described was a hilarious okay, so it was a hilarious example of this guy like ruining a relationship for some other dude.
I wasn't even talking to her.
But it was like what you literally just described what
we're in the trust nest here.
Like he talked to this bitch in the gym, and like and then she left her boyfriend like a week later.
I just wanted the 45s. And I'm like trying to and her boyfriend's right there. So he helped me get the weights. Mm-hmm. And then my IG blew up. It wasn't my fault. Anyway. Yeah, but on that subject, your girl, if you're that kind of guy, you don't have to tell her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She knows, and she knows that other women know, without a doubt. So there's a very
imagination is the best tool in your toolbox.
Right.
Woman's imagination.
And so just by you being that guy, her imagination is going to run wild, and I truly believe if you are that guy, that you're confident enough that she knows that you also know. And so in that way, she can more authentically know the deal, and you don't even have to tell her, if that makes sense. in the chance that you do get to tell her, I would not worry about sounding arrogant, because women are much more attracted to a man that's arrogant, because it's really just most confident monkey. And so now here we are back to primal law. He must know something about himself that is high value, that I'm, that he's not saying.
Because otherwise he wouldn't act.
Otherwise he wouldn't. And for that reason, I'm attracted to him.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry about being arrogant or an asshole or anything like that.
Funny,
I would absolutely worry about being bitch, because that's weakness is what costs you your woman. Always. I genuinely believe that if you have your shit together at all, and you're in a relationship and you show weakness, and that's the thing that I always keep in my head when I'm dealing with women, is like, don't worry so much about what you say, but what you show her, because it's all down to primal, and women are emotionally driven. And so if you make her feel something, she has an emotion, and if that's strength, then it's very, very, very hard for her to not stay attracted to you if she was so in the first place.
Oh yeah, that's old school PUA 101, is like, leave her with an emotional association. The worst thing you can do is just have her just be invisible, right? Not do anything. Like the old school guys, and I'm not saying how maybe in today's sexual marketplace things are a little bit dated, but the idea is that whether it's a positive association or a negative association doesn't make any difference, as long as there's an emotional, she gets an emotional high, she gets some sort of something to remember you by. I tried to point this out. I don't know if I did it well enough, but when I was on Fresh and Fit, I think it was the second show that we did. I told Myron this. I said, if you kick a girl off of the show here, all the girls, like he raises his voice and it's like, daddy's home, like daddy's pissed. Daddy's home and daddy's pissed, right? Like all those girls are dead ass silent when it's like, pack your shit and leave kind of thing. When producer Chris is giving them the talking to before the shows, it's like, pay attention to the teacher in the class kind of thing. And if you start mouthing off, then you go to detention kind of thing. It's like that dynamic there where women will respond to what I've called command presence. And are you familiar with the concept of command presence? It's like, in police training, for example, like you see a man in a uniform, you see a cop in a uniform, they are trained to show a command presence because they're standing up straight, they're speaking in no uncertain terms. That guy is presumed to be the authority in that particular position. That also in the military, it's a widely known social concept called command presence. I think it's also applicable to game. I think it's also applicable to when you're dealing with women. I have been in positions where, like as an art director, working for liquor companies, working for gaming companies and stuff, where I've had to be the director of like commercial shoots, like TV commercial shoots and stuff like that. And if we have women at a promo or whatever, just being the guy who is giving the direction right there, you're sort of like alpha by context. Like they're looking to you, say, okay, I know what we're doing. This is where you're going. That's what you're doing. This is where, and it's that command presence that women I think a lot of women today are starved of that because they're all about themselves. Every chick on those shows, on every single show, they're all about themselves. They're all about their brand. They're all about like, I'm going to get my bag kind of thing, blah, 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 blah. They do not have any masculine authority in their lives. And they certainly don't have a man they're shocked by a man who establishes command presence over them at that particular time. Like, look, this is my house and you're out of my house.
Right. And that's absolutely new to them.
Yeah.
Because in the 50s, we asked women to be women and men at the same time. And then we have this massive divorce problem. No dad at home, no man around for either gender. So now you have women that have not dealt with a real man, and you have men that have not dealt with a real man or learned how to be a real man. Right. So you got a bunch of guys
they don't even know how to interact with other men.
Exactly. They can't look a man in the eyes. They can't have a hard conversation. They can't shake your hand. They can't be there in the moment with you. And I don't particularly blame them, either side, really, truly. And there we are with that problem where there's this odd thing where now we're going to find out who we want to date based off their social media. Well, you get in real life, and neither one of them know how to handle the situation. So I think it's the men's job to learn how to take that role and set that frame. Yeah. And then the girl, I absolutely believe, if you're the right guy, will get in line, without a doubt.
Yeah. Well, women, people hate it when you say stuff like, well, women want to be led. Like Myron says this all the time. And you just see women bristle when they, yeah, but they want to be led by a guy who's worthy to lead them. That's really, add that to that sentence and it's a whole different sentence.
Yeah. You know, I've heard Andrew Tate say this. Mm-hmm. Women shouldn't respect a man just because he's a man. A girl that does that's generally a hoe. Mm-hmm. A woman should respect a man that deserves respect from a woman.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me explain something to you. I've actually done several essays about this. I've done several shows about this too, which is there is a qualifiable difference between how women approach the concept of respect versus how men approach the concept of respect. And I'll try to be as brief as I can because it's actually those are some pretty long episodes. But when women talk about, oh, you don't respect me. Remember that girl that was on there? She was like, well, you know, if I get an alpha guy and as long as he respects me, then I'm okay. I'll be yes, daddy, blah, blah, blah. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, thing is most people don't understand that there is a difference between how women understand respect and how men understand respect. Men have a burden of performance. So when I see you or I talk to you or I know your background, I know your background, you have a respectability. Men must have they must do something to make themselves respectable. It's a merit-based form of respect, right? So you have these things, you've done this stuff with your life, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, you made a lot of money. It could be just you have a great family, that kind of stuff. There's a respectability that goes along with the guy because it is according to his achievements and according to what he has built and made of his life. Men must become respectable. For women, it is just you have a vagina, respect women. You have to respect us. Where's my respect? Because Aretha Franklin writes a song about it, right? Women's respect the idea is that it should be default. And so that's how you get like, we should respect everybody. No, we shouldn't. Because there's a male form of respect and a female form of respect. The female form of respect is usually just, we need to respect everybody, all people and respect the animals and respect me and respect. And it's like this thing. It's like, it becomes worthless at that point because like guys will always say this, well, I only respect people who earn my respect. Yeah, because that's the male form of respect. For women, it's men should respect them by default. So even if a girl is like a skank, you're still supposed to respect her because you don't respect women. In fact, they'll use that as a shaming technique for guys. And guys will resort to the male form of respect, which is, well, she doesn't do anything to earn my respect, or this guy doesn't have any respectability because I clearly see he's a loser kind of thing. So there's the meritocracy because men, we live in like a performance-based world. So there's guys who are at the top of the hierarchy and there's guys at the bottom of the hierarchy. And we see that throughout a society, a patriarchal society. And that's not a bad word. From the top of that hierarchy down to the bottom of that hierarchy. And it's ostensibly anyways, it's by performance. And usually that's because men have an innate desire and innate proclivity to compete with other men. We want to compete for the best of the resources, the best of the territory, the best of the women. And so when you look at like capitalism and you look at like businesses and stuff like that, they're structured on that male form of respect and those hierarchies. For women, when women get into the male workspace or into male spaces, the first thing they do is they make it like communitarian. They make it, everybody deserves this. Here, everybody gets respect now, not just you because you earned it. Everybody gets the same default respect. Well, what happens is you then devalue the idea of what respect is in the first place. So when women say, for guys to tell me, well, I need a woman who respects me. Well, are you expecting her to respect you according to her concept of respect? Or are you expecting her to, respect you because of what you've done and your performance and to appreciate who you are and what you have achieved in life and then respect that? Because that's the difference between the male and the female form of respect.
I completely agree with that. Yeah. One thing I would say is I think men respect competency.
Oh yeah.
And
that's what makes you respectable.
Right. That is the thing. That's the word that, we're talking about, you can make money or you can do this or you can have a family. It's competency.
There's dominance hierarchies and there's competency.
Yeah. There's competency.
You're cutting the mic out by moving around too much. Good. There we go.
Not even moving.
No, it's the cord.
Ah,
it's cutting the mic out. every time we move it.
Gotcha. Good thing Stirling's competent with the cord.
Yes.
I'm on it.
Somebody
So
had to
much-
wear the headphones.
Yeah, I'm glad I did.
So much respect.
Mhm.
But it is competence. And I think that women can see competence as well. And as far as respecting a woman, I do believe, I'm Southern, I do believe that opening doors and maybe picking up a tab and all those different things are a good place to start, especially when setting the frame of being the dominant one. I do buy dinner. I do open doors. I actually tell a woman, hey, don't you dare open a fucking door around me. You're gonna be in big trouble.
I'm not
Which is a
saying-
great trick, by the way.
I'm not saying one is better than the other, by the way. I'm just saying the concept between those two differs between men and women. A woman is expecting that from you because, oh, well, he respects me as a woman. That's the term there. But what happens is then respect becomes sort of this qualification for women at that point, right? And it's kind of nebulous. They can like decide whether you respected or you didn't, depending on how you made them feel.
Absolutely. I find that women won't want to talk about respect as much when they are under a man that's dominating the situation. You know, I've not encountered a whole lot of it's especially in my adult life of setting a frame and them having a respect problem. I find that respect is sometimes a shit test for a weak man.
Oh yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. I once again, let me clarify terms here. It's like I would not want my daughter to be dating a guy who did not show at least some sort of default respect in the same way you just described right now. I would not want that. Of course not. Again, one of the biggest things I think, or one of the biggest mistakes or mischaracterizations of the manosphere that a lot of people make is they tend to think that we're saying that, well, men are better than women or women are better than men. You know, it's like supremacy, like masculine supremacy versus feminine supremacy or whatever. It's like, no, we're just different. In some ways we are superior. In some ways we're not superior. It just depends on what the challenge happens to be. And again, it's understanding the innate differences between men and women as a result of that. However, when we're talking about like how women should, I think, be able to expect a default level of respect from a guy for sure.
Right.
But up to a point until it gets to the point where she is disrespecting you as, you know, like not valuing your time, like being, you know,
and that's the line. It's
Yeah.
it's mutual respect. You know, men and women bring absolutely two different things. The things that there's a long laundry list of things that men bring, and there's a very short list of things that women bring, but those things they hold a lot of weight and they're impactful. You know, bearing children,
they're valuable to a guy who wants those things. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, if you take sex alone, I mean, pussy makes the world go round. You know, I was joking the other day. I was like, we were talking about how maybe, you know, white guys are not the most popular thing to be right now, you know, or we're just talking about men too. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. Well, look around the room right now. Tell me one thing that you see, whether it's a road, a building, your iPhone, these mics, that a band did not invent, build, and keep maintenance on.
Right.
You know, however, at the same time, when we're walking down there and walking across cobblestone to go get coffee, there is a man somewhere at some point in time to build everything we can see, who got out of bed every morning and built everything we see in pursuit of a woman. And so he's going to protect her. He's going to pay the bills. He's going to work hard. He's going to go to war. He's going to take risk. He's going to have all these long list of ththings, and it's all in pursuit of that. Are we equal? You know, that's a long-winded argument, but
I think it depends on what the challenge is that we're expecting from the man or from the woman, right? Obviously, childbirth. I can't give birth to a kid, right? So
Absolutely.
Is that horribly unequal? You know,
right? Yeah.
No, it's not. It's just that's the fundamental nature of our reality, right? That's our physical reality. So it just depends on what the challenge you're being asked to perform, right? I'm not going to go play in the NBA. Right? I'm not telling that. Maybe you could, no. But there are certain limitations that I have as, you know, who I am and what I am at, you know, my age, blah, blah, blah. Likewise, I wouldn't expect to put you on stage with a guitar in your hand and have you, you know, go and shred a solo or something.
You'd be surprised.
Maybe you could. I don't know. But so it's like, what is the challenge? What are you asking me to equate that equality by.
Right.
And that's the problem, is we tend to look at equality as this, oh, everything, quality of outcome versus quality of opportunity. I think we get too lost in the weeds with that when we don't really realize that the concept of equality in the first place is completely flawed.
Right. It's absolutely,
because we look at it almost as a religion, like, oh, we need equality. It's like, well, okay, what does that entail? Define equality. Tell me what we should have. So tell me what should be going on here. I don't necessarily, I told Myron this, I don't think that women should be drafted for the military, because I don't think, by and large, on majority, women are up to the task of going out into battle and fighting the Taliban that just took over Afghanistan right now. What are we going to do? Draft women and send them over there?
yeah, that shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, you could, the other problem with that is that we see, since the rise of social media, anyways, we can see example after example after example on video, on social media, on the internet. We have instant access to all these examples of, women not being equal to the task of men, depending on what that task is. Now, in some instances, maybe men are just kind of inept at doing that, but whatever the task is. But when all we think of as equality, that's what I call equalism. When we look at equality from the perspective of, well, everybody should be able to do anything they want to do, right? It doesn't matter if you're male or you're female. What that is it's the lie of the blank slate. That men, women, doesn't matter. It's just the plumbing, right? There's no biological differences, don't make any difference. It's all about social constructionism, and everybody's a blank slate, tabula rasa. Horseshit. Provably, empirically horseshit, and has been for a long time now.
Absolutely agree.
The reason why you have all these, you have women who get really upset over things, or you get guys on YouTube or whatever get very upset over like evolutionary psychology, Evo bio, even just like some aspects of like anthropology or sociology. Even like you look at some of the realities that are easily accessible right now, people get very upset about that. And the reason why is because they still think that people ought to be equal. We're all just the same, and we're just, it doesn't matter. No, it does matter. We have our talents, we have our limitations, and we have our advantages depending on whether we're male or female and who we are and what we are. There's nothing fucking wrong with that. And the best thing to do is to learn how to adapt to that and build from within that structure, rather than live your life in this denial and wonder why everything doesn't work out for you. We constantly talk about the participation trophy generation, right? That's why, because we believe in the blank slate. We believe in social constructionism. You remove those two things, and all woke culture, social justice, feminism, gynocentrism, name the ism, and it collapses when you pull those two legs of the stool out.
One thing I think that women forget is that men don't give a shit about other men. So if I go out and I try to start a company, I'm going onto the field. Everybody on that field is trying to kill me. And so if a woman decides to step onto the field, she needs to understand you have now walked onto the field. Right. So play fucking ball. If you really want that. If not, get your ass back in the stands and I'll meet you in the end zone. Right. And I think that's what, if I ever get upset on the subject of female equality, it is that. It's almost like when you go a place and you see a woman like hit or push a man, you're like, ooh, I'm not into hitting women at all, but she shouldn't be going on that field at all. And so when she goes into the workplace and she goes to work for a company, and I have women that work for me and they kill it, and I love them, and and I respect them, and we have deep conversations about strategy. But at the same time, I don't think the normal woman is accepting of the fact that when you walk on the field to play, let's say football or something, you're going to get hit like a man. So unless you're willing to get hit like a fucking man, right, get back in the bleachers.
Right. It's the expectation of playing on the same field as you, but having the compensation for being a woman.
Right.
This is it goes back to why I say that men and women cannot be like friends in the same sense that men and men become friends. And because men will tolerate a whole lot more from women, their quote unquote female friends, than they will from their male friends, right? The things you will put up with and tolerate from a woman, most guys anyways, you would come to blows with if it were a friend of yours. because she's a woman, and so therefore
There's safety in that.
Yeah, you innately put your mind and your mindset into that. So that's what happens when women come into male space. Men make accommodations for them innately, naturally, because men have a natural evolutionary protector, provider instinct for women, because women are the vulnerable sex. They have to gestate a baby for 9 months. They look to men to protect them, to provide for them, to feed them, to keep the saber-toothed tigers away from them.
Exactly.
And so there's like, how do you ensure the survival of a species where our babies have huge heads and we rely on our intelligence, and a human baby doesn't reach self-sufficiency until it's like 8 years old, maybe 10 years old? Well, you have to have a species of the males who are willing to invest in those kids and to protect the females, because they're completely vulnerable as a result of that. There has to be an innate psychological function that prompts or puts a proclivity of some sort into men to want to protect women and children.
Right. And I say this all the time, and I think women unfortunately have been taught wrong on this particular subject,
and women know that, and they exploit that, I should say.
No man wants a woman that he cannot save from a castle and a dragon.
That's why that's an archetypal story.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why fairy tales exist. Yeah. And so when a woman wants to be a boss bitch or whatever she wants to be, you have now taken all the novelty and all the fun and all the joy out of actually loving a woman.
And all of the lessons out of that story.
Yeah. Everything that's there is gone. So sometimes I'm on a date with a girl and she'll say, oh, I make this much money. And I personally don't care, but I know that number is more than the average guy. And I'm thinking to myself, you shouldn't say that too much. So now she might as well be 6'2". Because you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Because she just disqualified herself from that many other men.
It's a flex. It's a masculine flex.
It's a masculine.
Like if I told you how much money I made, you'd think, oh, I'm flexing on you, right? A
right.
girl tells you that, and because now what she's done is she's entered into a male frame.
Right. You just stepped on the field, sweetheart.
Yes.
I giggle at her. I'm like, oh, that's cute.
Every girl on Fresh and Fit, whenever they say, what do you bring to the table? What value added besides your holes? What do you bring to the table? Right. First thing they say, I got my own business. I do custom eyelashes and nails and stuff.
Your bracelet business doesn't count.
But it's always some bullshit that men really don't give a fuck about.
Gourmet biscuits for my dog.
And it's like, here's one of the funniest fucking things that I always hear women talk about is like, I bring my own opinions and I'm opinionated and I bring all my ideas. Motherfucker, I don't want to hear you talk. Like, honest to God, like that might sound like I might be sounding a bit misogynistic here, but if like, I think most men would much prefer a woman who is like agreeable and polite and quiet than a woman who's sitting there and like the women who are sitting next to me on that podcast, who are sitting there and just chiming in and just arguing for the sake of arguing and having an opinion for the sake of having an opinion all the goddamn time.
Again, it's the ideal that never do anything for the express pleasure of a man. And so what happens is that they equate attraction with how well they can achieve a masculine ideal of attraction. So when you listen to women who say, oh, I make this amount of money, I got my own damn job, I got this, I can do whatever I want to, they presume that that's attractive because that's what they find attractive in men. So that's it. It's like I was saying, the blank slate. If we're all equal and I'm a woman and I find, a lot of money and this and respectability, all that other stuff attractive in a guy, that clearly, because we're all on a blank slate, that guy should find that attractive in me.
It's
no, that doesn't work that way.
What that is it's like solipsism manifesting through the blank slate, because that's what women want.
Everybody's
it's women
just
perceiving
like me,
exactly.
And I like this, so you should like this.
Bingo. Yeah, that's exactly it.
You should be attracted to this, and if you're not, you're an insecure man.
Yeah, that's exactly
what it comes out to. And then what I had this conversation with Myron a few times. I've actually done full episodes again on this, which is the myth of the alpha female. And women love to call themselves alpha females.
Boss bitch.
I'm a boss, but whatever, like the whatever the functional equivalent of alpha female is. I just talked about this and on my live stream is women hate it when I bring this up, but it's the fact is there's no such thing as an alpha female, at least not in the way that women like to define it. Because if you go and you look at somebody like Sheryl Sandberg, right? People go, oh, she's she's the CEO of Facebook, or she's got a lot of money. Or you look at these women who are like in the Forbes top 10 richest women in the world. Now, all of those women have either made their money through divorce, or they inherited the business that they are now running, either through a dead husband or a dead father. Don't at me. I'm just reading you the news here. But what happens is women believe that an alpha female being an alpha, quote unquote, alpha female makes them more attractive. Like, I can take care of my business. I don't need no man. I want a man, but I don't need a man. Roll your eyes at me.
It disqualifies them.
It
makes them less attractive,
yes, because
it reduces the pool of dateable men.
And so what they think is that should be like sort of the apex of what makes a woman attractive, is to become an alpha female. Now, I tell them this. I said, no, by that definition, you are an alpha male with a vagina. That's what it comes down to. You have your understanding of an alpha ideal is based on a male dynamic. What makes a man alpha does not make a woman alpha. So I always use this example. It's like, if you go and I love this girl. Her name is Renee Summerfield. She's a swimsuit model. She fucking nails. I mean, she's just fucking hot as hell, right? And so I use that. I say, you want an example of an alpha female? Go look at Renee Summerfield, or the hottest chick that you can find in a bikini. She's the alpha female because she's the one who is the apex of female attractiveness right there. She puts all the other women in her sort of weight class or her social class to shame. She's the one who generates all the attention from all the guys who want to want to get with that girl, right? So according to a female dynamic, the girl who is, the hot girl in the phone cannon party, that girl is the alpha female according to a female ideal. So when we make the estimation between alpha female or alpha male, when women refer to that, they think that, their boss bitch is a boss bitch is not, you're an alpha male. You're just an alpha male in a woman's body.
Those women are confused about how the two sexes measure currency differently.
Yeah. Because they believe in a blank slate.
Right.
Equalist.
They don't understand that, and this is no disrespect to women, but loyalty and beauty is the baseline of a woman's currency. Mm-hmm. And women that don't want to accept that are generally not that attractive, one, or two, highly misinformed. And that's not to knock women. It's just scientifically true. We are attracted to beauty and loyalty. And I can tell you that and I can probably speak for Stirling on this, I don't care what you do for a living. I don't give a shit.
Most men don't.
Right. I'd say a lot, many, I think it's probably a very small percent of men that do. And the reason for that is,
and it's probably feminized men that actually do.
Yeah, well, or a man gets married. If he were to have stayed a bachelor, he'd have one plate, one fork. I don't care how rich he is. Yeah. Normal apartment. It's her that wants the big house. Right. And so now we got two jobs. I'm a bad bitch. You need to keep up with me. Let's do this big house thing. That's, really.
What's the joke? Is like, if a woman would fuck in a cardboard box, a man would never buy a house.
That's a dude, and bro, but that's a fact, But even if he lives in that cardboard box, he will still be pursuing beauty. And once he captures a relationship with that woman, he will want loyalty. And I think women forget just how much weight is on those two line items.
Yeah, I wanted to also bring this up too, because this was something you brought up along the way here. I want to kind of come back to it. I think that there is a blue pill for women as well, and people say, "Oh yeah, it's feminism, right? It convinces women to do these things." Yeah, it is, but I think it's more than just feminism. People ask me all the time. They say like, don't you think that first wave feminism was good? They got the right to vote. I go, no, there's no such thing as waves of feminism. It's the same impetus. It's the same message. It's the same motivation that, from back in 1848 at Seneca Falls, when they had the convention of, feminists or whatever. I can forget the name of it now, but it's the same thing. It's just like now we can facilitate feminism to the point where it becomes a political power, where it becomes a religious power, where it becomes a social power, because we have the internet, because we have social media and all this other stuff. But as a result of that, we have conditioned, I would argue the last 4 generations of women into believing certain things, memes, let's just say, about women in general, about human nature in general, that are failed memes. So when women go, oh, I can't find a man, I'm 36, 37 years old. I use these stats all the time. It's like the Morgan Stanley studies, which is the rise of the she economy. Women by the age, or excuse me, when we get to 2030, they're forecasting that women between the ages of 25 and 45 years old, prime working demographic, 45% to 50% of them will be single and childless. And that is no way to keep a country going. That is no way to keep families going. That is no way to keep the human species going, really, when you think about it. So, but why is that? And I would lay that at the feet of the ideologies and the memes that are failed memes right now, which is the blank slate, social constructionism, that kind of stuff, but also the idea that that the ideas and the ideologies and the memes that are creating the girls that you see on Fresh and Fit, right? It's feminism gets to a point where it's like it's done with you, but you can always kind of gripe and moan and bitch and complain about things when you get to be 36 years old and you don't have a kid and you've got 3 cats and you're going, men ain't shit. That's a meme, right? Well, it's because men failed you. It's not because you failed you, ladies. It's because men failed you. And why wouldn't they? Because you're looking for competency in men all the time, right? Well, feminism and gynocentrism would work so much better if men would just cooperate. Well, we're not. We don't have an incentive to cooperate. And the guys who will cooperate are guys you don't want to be with in the first place. So yeah, when you get to be 35 years old and Kevin Samuels says you're average at best, you have, or I talked to that girl who's the single mom with the 2 kids and everything. I said, you got an uphill battle, baby. For me to even say that, I have to go against the blue pill for women that's been fed to her and fed to every other woman along the way who gets offended by me actually saying that to her in the first place. And so now I have to, not only do I have to be red pill with guys, I got to be red pill with women as well. And it's not that I don't have sympathy for the women. Like guys will say, well, I don't have any sympathy for them at all. They love that revenge fantasy kind of thing. Like black pill guys love the revenge fantasy, right? But that's no way to get men and women to come together. That's no way. I keep saying men and women are complements to one another. We shouldn't be adversaries with one another. We are meant to be created, evolved, whatever it is, to be complements of one another. We're better together than we are apart. And right now you've got women on the gynocentric side of the playground, and you got guys on the other side of the playground, and never the two shall meet unless they want to get laid on Tinder, and then they go back to their respective places. I think that kind of, like, for want of a better word, like I hear guys describe it as red pill rage or whatever you want to call it, like this idea that this sort of resentment that guys can get upset, right? That I have any kind of sympathy or empathy for girls who are like, get to be I don't want my daughter to be like 34, 35 and not have kids and not have a satisfying life and have a good husband that she can respect and everything else. I don't want that for my daughter whatsoever. I think a large part of that in men can, like, because they'll discover the red pill, they'll learn a bit about female, like, dynamics or whatever, and it's like that resentment comes from, like, when you stop expecting women to be something that they're not. Right. It disappears. Like, cock and balls, this fucking audio cord. Sorry guys for the audio cutting out all the goddamn time. It's this cord I got here. That, like, you don't see neither of us sit around fucking feeling resentful for, like, I'm never mad at women. We're never mad at women. We'll call them retarded, but we'll laugh about it. We're like, these dumbasses, but we're not, like, resentful and angry. Oh. It's because we expect them to be women. We don't expect them to act and think and behave like men. I wouldn't be doing this if I hated it. I think a lot of people think, oh, it's all misogyny, it's hatred. It's like, I wouldn't be taking the time. I wouldn't have written the books that I've written if that were the case. The red pill maxim is like, the red pill doesn't exist so you will hate women. It exists so you won't hate them for what they can never be to you. Yeah, right.
I completely agree with that.
Let's.
Do we have questions?
We can roll through. There's been a few super chats I brought up on the screen while you guys. I didn't want to interrupt your flow you were going.
Right.
Let's see if I can
Please
come
interrupt
back.
me.
I want to see if I can scroll back here and find a few of them if they haven't already disappeared. No, a few of the super chats have already disappeared. Although we did have the Black Sheep saying, "Rollo put the Spartan helmet on and preach red pill knowledge." Everyone watching go smash that like button. Unfortunately, that helmet cannot fit
I
on
don't
our
think it
heads.
comes off of that.
No, it does come off, but it's too small. It doesn't fit on our heads. Well, I don't think it'd fit on your head if it didn't fit on my head.
This is where we stand.
Yeah, we get a lot of that.
This is where they die.
We've had, I think we've had a lot of people agreeing with you guys. We've had a few people disagreeing with you guys.
I gotta watch that movie.
It's been.
Oh, I've seen it, but I haven't watched it in a long time.
There was something I wanted to ask you guys what we were talking about when we were grabbing these coffees, which was this idea of like, you do this thing on your Twitter account sometimes, Rollo, where you post like a photo of a chick.
Yeah.
Where you post a photo of a chick.
How would you open?
And you say, "How would you open?" And you were saying you were saying to me before, like this was like a genuine exercise. Back in the day, that was like kind of on the forums that, with a whole like PUA thing starting on the internet forums. It was a genuine exercise. So guys would have to think about the scenario, and even if it was a girl they didn't like, blah blah blah. Nowadays, and you're saying a lot of the responses you get on Twitter nowadays are dudes justifying why they wouldn't even talk to a chick. And I think that's a real good
generational difference. I think.
A big generational difference. And it's a good example of like guys not like doing anything they can, making any excuse they possibly can to not do any fucking work, to resist that burden of performance that men actually have.
The original. Okay, so that was lifted, by the way, from old school PUA, seduction community, alt-fast seduction. There used to be an exercise that they would do with like their students way back in like 2002, 2003. And it was, how would you open, right? You have a picture of the girl, and it was usually some kind of girl that you would, like most guys would just be like, I wouldn't open that, right? But you had to plumb the depths of your game knowledge and your skills to say, but if I were to open this girl, how would I go about doing that? It really was what it was a test of your skill to like read that girl or to come up with some sort of witty banter or some kind of like opening, to get in and start the conversation going, right? And so there was actually a purpose to those exercises. There's other exercises too, but this was like one of the fun ones anyways. And so you had to sort of be creative and say, okay, this is what I would do if it's like a goth girl or it was like a good country girl, whatever it is, whoever you would. Let's you're not a club ratchet hoe. Okay, well, how would I, hey, want to go to Bible study? Like that kind of stuff. You would have to plumb the depths of your mind to like figure out how best to initiate a conversation. So then, of course, social media comes around, and it's much easier to show off a picture on Twitter these days and say, how would you open? Now it's a joke. Because what happened, and I realize it's a joke. Sometimes I'll put like a picture of a big fat chick or something like that. I wouldn't open that girl. But if you were, what would you say? Oh, she's a goth girl. She's got like multiple piercings. She's got with the black eye inserts or whatever like that. I would never have anything to do with her. Most guys right now, when I put that out there, there is a level of literalism, and I mean to the point where it's like functionally retarded literalism, where they're just like, I would never, I'm too cool. I would never, I respect myself more than to do, like they're taking
the juice ain't worth the squeeze.
Seriously, it's just not worth the squeeze. I would never, I have more respect for myself than to do that. And it's like they have to make this public declaration of why they would never open, whether she's hot or she's not, why they would never bother to do so. And it seems to me like back in, like I said, the mid 2000s, the idea was, how would you go about doing this? And now in 2021, it's how would you avoid this? And so it's that they think that that's I think it says more that the experiment has changed because it says more about the people answering than it does the actual experiment itself.
They're avoiding pain.
Yeah. Well, rejection is a buffer against rejection, but it's like this declaration to say, I would never, and it's this, like we were saying before, it's this want for revenge. Well, she could never have a guy like me because I'm too cool for that. And it's like, no, dude, it's an exercise. It's meant to be funny. Like go with it for a minute here and think of what you could do. But
and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's like, I don't want revenge on anyone. I don't have it out for women. Also think that any man, if he's being completely honest with himself, if she's goth or whatever she is, as long as she's cute, and if you're really being honest with yourself, you probably would want to sleep with that woman. Yeah, on a Tuesday.
You will hit it.
On a Tuesday, I might not give her a Friday, but I give her a Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? I'll do that. And any man that is secure enough in himself and talking straight knows that that's the case. I used to have this girlfriend. I would try to sit her down. This is a mistake I used to make. I'd try to sit my girl down and like tell her I didn't believe in monogamy. And so one time I remember, I tried to explain to her, I was like, baby, you don't understand just how low below you I would go. It's not because I don't love you. It's just different. They don't understand our wiring, and what keeps our species alive is for us to want to mate like that. You know, it's in us. I tell girls sometimes, I was like, you know how you have that physical feeling that you want to have a baby? That's what I want to do with that goth chick. You know what I'm saying? I just don't want to get her pregnant, you know, but, and if it weren't for the laws, then I might not even care as much, but, you know, but I guess what I'm saying is like those guys, I feel like they say those things because they have not put themselves in a position to get the good side of women. And if they were to put themselves in, and it's very possible, I think there are very, very, very few men that could not raise themselves from where they are to a position where
a little bit better,
dude. And it's growing easier and easier by the day because all these guys are checking out. You do two things: not be black pilled and not be overweight. Brush your teeth, have a job, take a shower, dude. You're in the top 85% of men right there. You know, right there. You know, so I think that. And that brings me a question for you. You know, you saw a generation of guys that learned game, and game is still around. I've always been a big proponent, and this is something I tell my nephew all the time. I said, look at getting women like a half court shot at a NBA basketball game, where they give you $1 million if you make it. If you handle your fitness, you get closer to the goal. If you handle your finance, you're at the 3-point line. If you handle your dynamic with women, you're in the paint. You know, and the next thing you know, you're like your Uncle Jay and you're under the goal and they're handing you the ball on a ladder and you're just dropping it in because I talk shit to his ass. But I really believe that game gets easier when you've taken care of your things as a man, because all of a sudden you have confidence in yourself, which allows you to show that bravado that we talked about earlier, that confidence. And I'm not saying that game is not real. I think that, like we were talking about earlier with the women, I think there's a weight put on game that is almost inverse to taking care of your shit.
Yeah. Well, I hate to quote, no, I don't hate to quote John from Modern Life 10, you know, make money, make muscles, learn game. That's the those are the three aspects of like, how do you become a better version of yourself? Really those things. Yeah. If you want to there's the elevator pitch for you right there. I think that like guys will hear it, like right now there's probably guys who are grinding their teeth listening to you at 6'4", you know, jacked as fuck, and I'd go going, well, of course it's easy for him, but and it's like, well, yeah, but nobody's selling you. No one here and that I know of that I associate with in the manosphere, whatever, is saying, follow my course and you'll look like Justin, follow my course, and this is the end result right here, and you'll be dating 9s and 10s. No one is selling guys 9s and 10s. You know what they're doing? They're selling you improvement.
Yeah, and there's
what
also
is your improvement?
There's also a parallel universe where he is a fat, ugly motherfucker who didn't take care of himself, and he lives in a trailer park and he's broke.
In Louisiana.
Like, and that guy ain't getting fucking laid, but this guy is, because he's done something with his life.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, so when we talk about stuff like people that when it comes to like make muscles easy, right? Okay, well, I go in the gym and I watch my diet and I get in shape, make money. Okay, well, at least I can sort of follow along and figure out, you know, some kind of grift or some kind of hustle or learn a skill or learn a trade, and then I can make some money. That's like something people follow. But when it comes to learning game, what you're saying is you need to develop social skills, and that's really what game ends up being. And for the last, like certainly the last two generations, the millennial generation and now Gen Z right now, they are struggling with social social skills because these are the generations that have been raised behind the screen. Their social skills came from Tumblr and Twitter and whatever forums they're checking out, whatever from YouTube, everything else. Their way of interacting with a global community and learning social skills has come primarily not from face-to-face interactions, but texting. Go walk down the street and see how many people just down here in Midtown, how many people are walking around like this the whole time. They don't interact. Oh, hey, how you doing? Yeah. You want to know why that's such a refreshing thing for women to have a guy approach them? Because everybody's like this the whole time.
And you know what? It's goddamn, this fucking cool.
No, like social skills are, I think, are the number one thing that guys are really looking for, and it's the most like, I don't know, arbitrary, right? It's the most ambiguous because they don't know what there's no plan of action for them.
When I go on dates with girls here in Miami, one of the first things I ask them is like, I ask them about their like their Tinder date horror stories, like because it's always a fun topic to talk about, like because you get let's just shit on other dudes to a degree too. But and then on top of that,
safe space to do it.
It's a safe space to do it, and it's a lot like one of the most common complaints I hear from women about other men when I'm on a date with them is they'll phrase it this way. They'll say, most guys don't know how to keep a conversation going. It's as simple as that. It's just like they don't know how to talk. It's not even, and I'm not even saying it like when I'm on dates with chicks, I'm not saying anything fucking magical.
And that comes from experience too.
It does come from experience, but it comes from like knowing like the ebb and flow of a kind of like how we're doing right now. The ebb and flow of a conversation, knowing when someone's running out of things to say. I can step in and talk now. It's like
I have guys that will ask me that next to how do I interact, how do I start a conversation, hold a conversation with women, the next one is how do I interact with men? Because they don't know. They don't know the difference. Like you and I, like as soon as I met Justin, I was like, we're fucking around. We're like, hey, what's that? We're giving each other shit all the time. It's like, because that's what we do. That's what guys do. That's how men interact. A lot of the guys, particularly the latter half of the millennials and now into and Gen Z, they see that as bullying. They see that as hazing. They see that as, oh, how come you can't be nice to me? What's my respect? You know, I think they don't know how it works.
I think a good 50% of the words that we say to each other are insults.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like without it, like we wake up in the morning, I'm like, hey, I'm not going to say that word on this channel because it'll get banned. Right. But hey, slur. You know, or hey, dickhead.
Are you going to the gym or not?
Are you going to the gym or not, pussy? That's like half of what our conversations is that shit. But it's like, I don't know, like
we've been doing it since we started this podcast.
Yeah,
really.
Like he's like, quit fucking the mic up. I'm like, fuck you. You know what I'm saying? Like, your mic's broken, bitch. Like it's just.
Speaking of which,
yeah, but they like most guys in this generation don't understand those, and that's just one manifestation of many. And so, like. I brought this up. I don't think I probably should do a full show on this at some point, but like, I think that right now, because you know, this generation is not being taught by their fathers, certainly, or they're a blue pill generation raised by another blue pill father, probably raised by a blue pill grandfather. Right? And so you have this generational, lack of training, education, learning of social skills. And so what do guys do is they go online to learn those social skills. And one of the things I don't think a lot of, and I just am becoming aware of this myself, is that a lot of guys who are in the manosphere, in the red pill circle, like guys who are looking to you as a coach, if you call yourself a coach, if you call yourself a counselor, if you call yourself, if you're an influencer, if you are a god, it's like that is calling yourself an influencer now is almost scary to me right now. But like to be an influencer, you're a teacher is what you are. Guys are looking up to you, especially if you're in this manosphere. They're looking up to you for guidance. They're looking up to you as a teacher. They don't want to go to school. They don't want to go to a university because it's all full of communists and socialists and feminists and everything else. They're not learning it from their families. They're not learning it from their single mothers. They're not learning it. They need a masculine influence. Well, the thing is when we have like masculine influences in those guys who don't have a father, they're still being taught by, guys like what's his name, Justin Baldoni, like, oh, be a better man, you listen to her feelings and that kind of stuff. And so you've got a generation of guys, and they don't understand why what they're doing doesn't work, and they look to you, they look to you, they look to me, they look to, you know, whoever is their sort of guru or their coach, for lack of a better term, but you are a teacher. And I think guys need to really take that seriously right now. If you're in the manosphere and you call yourself a counselor, remember, you're a teacher. And what you put into these guys' heads is they're going to take to heart. They're going to really use that, or they're going to, in some way, even if they don't take 100% of it, even if they just take 10% from you and from me and from whatever, you got to be careful of what you're doing here, because now we have to be the fathers that they didn't have. We have to be the teachers, the coaches that they didn't have. And I think that is something that we generationally, I think, is something that we really need to be careful of now, because that's what guys are looking for.
One thing I'd say about that is the old quote that you are the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Mm-hmm.
These guys need to understand that a lot of them are probably number one in a young man's life that he spends the most time with. And even though it's just watching YouTube videos, they're spending more time with that YouTube guy or that influencer or that man than they're spending with probably anyone else, locked in their room watching his videos.
Right.
And so I'm a big believer in what I call spiritual gumbo. And gumbo is a Louisiana thing where you put all these different ingredients in there.
I know a gumbo.
You know,
Jambalaya.
yeah. And so I think all of us are taking bits and pieces, and this is why I think we all have a soul. Is our soul chooses how much of Rolo I want in my gumbo, how much of Stirling I want in my gumbo, and that thing collectively, not a lot, motherfucker.
Sterling, I don't want any of your gumbo.
Let's say it was soup or whatever kind of thing it was.
Keep going.
Collectively comes together to make the formula of who you are. But you as a person in your soul and who you are as a person, you choose those people that you bring in and you take into your consciousness, and you choose how much. And I do think it's very important, because these guys are a major active ingredient in these young men's lives. That's a fact.
Oh yeah.
So you're absolutely dead on there. I agree.
Yeah. And then I wrote, I got actually a third part to it though, but the last 2 essays that I put up on therationalmale.com, I've been sort of say critical, but like I've been talking about like the hustle economy, which is really what we're doing right now. And there's a lot of different aspects to what I call the hustle economy. So, and usually it's like guys who have their sales funnel kind of thing, or they want to be a coach, or they want to get into, it could be fitness. It could be be an entrepreneur, right? It just depends on what your niche is. Like mine happens to be red pill. Yours is red pill too. You guys kind of do a little crossover too. But I think that when we get into what I call the hustle economy, that a lot of guys, especially if they're paying for it, or especially if they're putting money into this sort of program that they think they're going to see some kind of results from, that along the way, you have to remember, why is it that they're trying to seek you out in the first place? Why is it that they're what are the skills that they're actually lagging? I've talked to guys who are in fantastic shape. They're ripped as hell, and they are fumble for words with women, and they're failing with women because they don't know how to carry on a conversation. They don't know how to approach. Women will approach them and they screw it up, kind of thing. And so then you got guys who are sort of like, you know, authentic, real guys who want to do this. I've been doing this for 20 years. I just kind of stumbled my way into what's now the hustle economy. But then there's guys who get into it and they want to sell a Gumroad course, or they want to do whatever. And that's the maximum, the extreme end of whatever it is that they want to do. But I don't think that they realize that along the way, they're going to start this sort of, I'll say cult of personality, but they're going to have this following. That's what we call it, a following. You're an influencer, you have a following that are going to listen to you, are going to be influenced by you in some way, whether that's on Instagram or that's on YouTube or that's you doing what we do. Chicks are the same thing, just same way, right? Girls go, who do you follow on Instagram? This girl. She got a trip to Aruba, right? Because her Simp Center there, OnlyFans. You want to know why OnlyFans is such a big deal? That's the hustle economy. It's show my ass off, make it the easiest that I can make it. And then you build this sort of like personality and this ego based on what people are expecting from you. And then you end up feeding back your insecurities to those your followers' insecurities. And then it creates this feedback loop. And then you get things like the black pill. Then you get things like girls going, oh, I want an OnlyFans because it worked for her. She's making $100,000 a month off of this. I could do the same thing. And we have to remember that we are literally influencing other people when it comes to those things. It's not just about purchasing. It's not just about commercialism. It's about like, who are you taking in to your gumbo, right? Or who are you taking into that's going to contribute to what your personality is all about, you know? So, and I agree with you is you have to be careful who you're listening to. You have to be careful who, and most people don't vet their gurus. They don't vet their influencers. They just see the perception, particularly women, because it's all about perception for women. But even for guys, they look and they see the Lambo. It doesn't matter if it's rented or it's not. It's like, that's the lifestyle I want to live. How do I become Sterling Cooper? How do I become Fresh CEO? How do I become Rollo Tomasi? I want what he has. How do I do that? Give me the 12-step plan to do that. And then there is no 12-step plan. But I think you're right. You have to be very careful about what you're taking in. And I'll tell guys right now, if you think that, I'm full of shit, I want to know why you think that I'm full of shit.
Right.
I want to know if you have a problem. I want to debate Rollo Tomasi. Okay, what are we going to talk about? Give me the subject. Where do you disagree with me? You're a cult leader. Well, that's an opinion. Sure. That is not a topic. Let's talk about whatever the topic is, and then we can go from there. But what is it that you are consuming? Right? Are you consuming junk food, or are you consuming good, nutritious food kind of thing? And I mean that in a personal level. You can turn it into a spiritual thing too if you want to. But it's like your personality is the result, is the gumbo of the people that you're allowing into your sort of awareness.
And what I think's sad about that, and Stirling talks about this a lot. He said, there's a lot of teachers out there that have not they started out off as teachers. And what do you call it? The perpetual circle of uselessness. Yeah. So it's like, I'll teach you how to be a life coach. It's like a life coach teaching someone how to be a life coach.
Grifters.
It's just this fucking endless circle of nothing.
At 22.
Yeah, and they're like fucking 20 and they've done nothing with their life. And it's like I would have like I'm only able to like teach some of the shit I teach guys now because I've been through shit. I'm 34 fucking years old. I've actually seen a thing or two. I've actually had some modicum of experience, particularly in the bedroom, which is what I specialize in. That's why I don't teach dudes how to fucking like pick up chicks, even though I know how to do it. I don't teach it because I'm not the guy who's out at the club every fucking weekend.
There's guys that do it better than I do.
There's guys who do it better than me. Yeah. So I leave it to them. I don't teach guys how to fucking save money on their taxes every year because that's not my shit. Like, I know what my experience is and I know what my unique value proposition is. So that's what I'm going to fucking focus on. And it's these other, that's what I have a problem with when I see coaches trying to like fucking, and so many people fall for it. And I feel like it's unfortunate because like you've got to learn, you have to have a degree of social skill to be able to recognize who's bullshitting and who's not bullshitting.
Yeah, most don't.
Most don't.
Yeah, because they're looking for social skills to begin with.
Yeah.
if they don't have those social skills, how are they going to be able to discern what's bullshit and what's not?
It
doesn't magically just appear in your consciousness. I mean, it's a learned process.
There's no doubt. I think there'll be a day where the internet will have a completely different set of laws. Well, you'll have to prove it.
We're already on their way there.
Yeah, and it should be that way. When I met you, and like you just said a few minutes ago, like you asked me, like, where is this guy's YouTube channel? Mm-hmm. I needed, it's
the link's in the chat right now.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. I needed to make sure that there was no hypocrisy in me before I started teaching things. Mm-hmm. So my company made 10 years in March. I had gone through all the battles and damn near losing it all and every mistake. I needed to feel like I had actually done something before I just started running my mouth on the internet. It was somewhere between meeting some guys that had done it, which it was no disrespect to them, but I was like, okay, so that kind of made it more human. And then I think I was talking to a guy about doing what's called a 1031 exchange in real estate. And I went on this rant with this guy, like telling him how I would do it, etc. I was talking into my phone because I didn't feel like typing. And he told me, dude, that's a whole course. I'm like, yeah, well, duh. I mean, this is what you're supposed to do tax wise, 1031, but blah, defer it to your kids' trust. Like we're talking about that whole thing. And I just believe that if you're going to talk on a subject, that you should have been doing it for a while. Right. Like the young 20-year-old, 22-year-old CEO university is absolute bullshit. It shouldn't be allowed. So I do think that's something that guys should, watch out for sure.
We have a question for we have a super chat specifically for Rollo. He says, Rollo, why is it all about perception when people complain about authenticity?
Well, it's all about perception in the sense that I'm not saying one's right or one's wrong. Okay. That's just the thing. It's like when it comes to perception, you have to be careful of what you're looking at on the screen. I usually, when I talk about perception, I'm usually talking about women in this sense, is because women want to see that you have the Lambo. They want to see that you're living this luxurious lifestyle on Instagram or whatever. And it's less important about what you authentically are as a guy. Again, it's talking to the brand versus talking to the actual human being, the actual person behind that. I've caught myself on several occasions saying, okay, I want to talk to the man now. Can I talk to you? Like I'm not talking to your brand. I want to talk to you. Because I think we tend to conflate our egos with what our personal brands are. Right.
When you feel the need to ask that question, what is it that they're giving you in communication that makes it feel empty in that way?
I think that it's almost like a character that I expect. Like,
there's no authenticity.
Like my real name is not Rollo Tomasi, obviously. Okay. Right. I mean, I drew the name from a character out of LA Confidential a long, long time ago. I am not Italian, but I've just been that's been my sort of pen name for a long time. And I don't see any reason why not to keep, that's what everybody knows me as. Hey, Rollo. Right. Okay. So, but it's, I'll give you a quick example. Back in the day, back in the 70s, David Bowie did a Ziggy Stardust, right? He did the character Ziggy Stardust. He did a concept album, and I read an interview one time of him where they asked him, why did you give up on Ziggy Stardust? It was so great. It was like the #1 album, blah, blah, blah. And people loved it. And they wanted to see that concert. And there was like a concept kind of thing. And he says, you know what? I had to let go of Ziggy Stardust because I felt like I was becoming Ziggy Stardust. It was no longer David Bowie. He was Ziggy. And he's like, I had to step away from that because I didn't want my ego to become that personality. And I mean, you can say, oh, well, it's multiple personalities, schizophrenia, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, maybe not. But I think what happens is a lot of guys, when we create this moniker for ourselves, or we create this personality, or we create this kind of online psyche for ourselves, we tend to be unable to turn that off, especially when our revenue is connected to being that person all the time. That's why I've always said I'm not going to give up my work in doing, graphic design and I do all the thumbnails for everything. I'm not going to stop doing what I've done professionally for a long time. And I'm certainly not going to sell out, the brands that I'm still affiliated with respect to, wine and spirits, because that still kind of grounds me. And people say, well, you're 53 years old. What are you doing? I'm in a progressive metal band too, called Trial of Ascension. Go check it out. We're on Spotify. But why do you do that, man? You don't make any money off of that. Who cares? I do it because it keeps me grounded, and I'm not, I'm me when I'm doing that.
You have a life outside of this.
Right. And so I can't be, that's why I really, like when I look at like someone like Jordan Peterson, or maybe in some cases, even like Myron and Fresh, is like, they can't turn that off. Tim Pool can't turn it off. Tim Pool is always Tim Pool. And you can't walk down the street without him being the brand of Tim Pool, and he can't walk away from it. That's why he's got a mansion in upstate New York right now, and it's like really hard for him to take a break or a vacation.
Well, it's the same with Myron and Fresh right now. They can't
take a vacation.
They're working their ass off, but it's like it's the life every day, and they love doing it.
But then they become fresh and fit.
Yeah.
Right? And so
we know them behind this, like
we know them behind the scene, and we know the men who are fresh and fit.
Exactly.
Right? So but I think that when you get into this, and especially if you're making more money doing this than you've ever made anything else, you know, in your entire lifetime, then you think that you're doing something right. So I think your ego sort of figures out that, oh, I'm getting paid more money than I've ever had, and I'm successful at this. Girls want to bang me because of this. I have everything I ever wanted as a result of this. It must be the right thing for me. God must want me to be this character, be this brand, right? Change my whole outlook on life. And really what it is it's dependent on the platform and not getting canceled. Of course, that's number one. Second of all, is like, it's only dependent on how your ego and your brand is reinforced by how much money you're making, or how much recognition you're getting, or how many followers you have, or how many views you got on a particular video, or what your engagement was. And that feeds into the brand that is now your ego and is now the character that you're playing all the time. And there's no escaping it. There's no getting away from it. So when I say it's all about perception versus being authentic, that's kind of what I'm getting at. And that is that it's are you the brand, or are you who are you authentically you now? And are we looking at like a generation of guys who are like in the hustle economy who are suffering from identity crises, you know? And then another thing, because people ask me about this, what about the beefs in the manosphere? And what about that? Well, what happens is when you have somebody who is attacking your brand and you are literally ego invested in your own brand, when somebody is attacking something that you said, it's not just attacking your personality or your created personality. It's also attacking like who you are.
It's attacking your identity.
Yeah. And then, so if you lose engagement, if somebody calls you a shit, or you lose followers as a result of somebody attacking you or whatever, then not only are you having a hit to your ego, you're also having a hit to your bottom line and your revenue.
Right. I think the ego is probably hurts just as much.
Yeah, because
the money's tied to the ego also.
Yeah,
they're both tied to that.
Yeah, and I think more and more people are having trouble making those distinctions. They're becoming Ziggy Stardust.
I actually think that's a train wreck for 14, 15-year-old girls right now.
Right, who don't know how to differentiate.
Well, they're assigning their worth to the amount of followers they have, and the amount of followers they have is directly correlated with the amount of skin they show, which is really setting them up for failure.
Which is directly correlated with the amount of money that they make, either through endorsements or whatever else. So when your business that is the brand of you takes a hit in some way, or someone calls you inauthentic, or someone calls you a fake or a phony or whatever, or they find some way to sort of scandalize you or whatever, not only are you taking a hit to your ego, you're also taking a hit to your bottom line.
Absolutely, which ties to your ego.
I'm losing followers, I'm losing money, I'm losing myself.
Right.
That's what it ends up being.
So back to that question, do you think, what is your opinion on the weight of game versus the man that you become? Where do you see the weight of those two, and how do they interact with each other in real life?
Whenever, I think what we do right now when we talk about game is we conflate like PUA game, like running schemes, running routines, that kind of stuff, with what I was saying before, which is social skills and understanding social skills. Like the best form of game is being a good conversationalist. The best form of game is to understand men's nature and women's nature and be able to sort of call that kind of stuff out. Can I run formal game? Sure. No problem. Right. You want me to rattle off game? I can do that, but it's much better when you can internalize those things and you understand why that game works. Like I'm working on a book right now that explains why game works, with the techniques and everything. Like this is in response to people asking me, Rollo, where's the best book for me to learn game? And other than like say James Tusk or Troy Francis and a few other ones that I can still whose names I pop in my head, I really can't name that many. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to go out there and sell you a book that says, here's how you do it. Here's 12 steps to game, right? And I'm not going to sell you a step by step, but I can tell you why certain aspects should or should not work, and how to make them, how to initiate them properly, and maybe give you some suggestions and some ideas. Sure, I can explain it and give you sort of what I'm going to calling it the player's handbook, right? Like, so you will understand why certain things work, but really that's the formal kind of thing. Like here's why these social interactions generate the emotions or generate the reactions that they do with women or even with guys, right? So there's that aspect of it. But then the other part is that really what you're looking for is not a series of behavioral sets that you can memorize, rote memorization. You have to internalize that stuff. It has to become part of your social skills. And most people will call this, well, it's internal game or something like that, or they'll say it's inner game, right? Inner game basically is just internalizing game so that it's your second nature. So it becomes part of who you are and part of your personality.
And that's why I always had I have a problem with people like a lot of people nowadays in this sort of the manosphere space or whatever it is will sort of shit on old school PUA.
Mm-hmm.
What they don't realize is that old school PUA actually, it was like training wheels.
Yeah.
It was like, it wasn't, I mean, yeah, a lot of guys kind of took it like rote memorization, but it's also like, well, here's an example, a practical example of something that a guy who got laid said in this circumstance, so that you can like, oh, okay, and then like internalize it up by repeating the process yourself and then come up with your own shit. It's, right. And that's why
improvisation. Like,
yeah, well, but learning the like it's pattern recognition of it's kind of like pattern recognition of frames, really. It's like, how does an attractive man reframe this situation verbally?
It's a predictive framework is what it is. It's not, is it always 100% going to work? No, it's not, because that's the thing about PUA is like people pick up artists, right? There's the A part of PUA is artistry. You have to actually be able to, see and react and be able to move in and out. It's not, otherwise it would be called pickup science. It's not. It's exactly artistry.
And there's so much more to it than the words that you say.
Yes.
Everything's emotional. I can say you're a complete dickhead, sweetheart. But if I say it in a loving way that's flirtatious with micro expressions on my face, and I can read the micro expressions on her face, then I'm situationally aware. And that's where I think these guys are missing. They
don't have the patience for it. They don't have the patience to learn the language.
Nor do they have probably the confidence to go do it.
Or they'll convince themselves that it's not worth doing or bothering with.
Absolutely. I don't, if they say that 90% of communication isn't the words, it's the body language and everything else. That's not an old thing. I'm not making anything up there. So when it comes to going out and walking up to a woman at the store, I think it's very important to do it, because if you don't, then you'll never feel the energy of that interaction.
What I get criticized for this all the time is like, they'll say, I feel sorry for that Rollo Tomasi, he has to game his wife all the time and blah. I'm like, I don't game my wife because I am the game, right? It's like, it's not like my wife gives me a shit test. I don't go, well, let me consult the rational male over here and and look at my notes so I can go with response A, B, or C. I don't, it's become second nature. You do it so often and you understand women's nature and you expect certain things so often that you already know what you're going to, they say brevity is the heart of wit, right? It's like, it's that being witty is really having heard that response to you before and going, whatever. It's like cocky funny or amused mastery, right? You'll notice that when we were at Fresh and Fit for the last couple of times, it's like, I got a girl, the blonde girl sitting next to me. I default to game. I just default to it because it's like she's throwing stuff at me. And I default to cocky funny. I default to amusement. Mostly especially when it's a woman who's like 26, 23 years old, I usually default to amused mastery. I don't go, these girls are 23. I guess I better turn on the amused mastery module of my brain. That's just what I do because that's who she is. And that's how I interact with them, whether that's in a work situation or it's, doing something like this. And so it becomes an internalized game or inner game is really just taking that understanding of game and having it become part of your personality so that you default to that and it's second nature. But guys don't really understand that. And it takes time to do that. It's not like something you can just like upload into your brain, like in the Matrix or something.
And here's the thing that a lot of guys don't understand, because I had to learn this shit myself. I actually had to learn this shit. Like you're more of like what we would typically call a natural, because you kind of like, I had to go onto like forums in my 20s and Google like how to talk to chicks. to get to where I am
live in real time in the clubs.
Yeah, exactly. And you figured it out like in your college years or whether it being an athlete or what it was, right? You kind of came to your own conclusions about this stuff naturally, right? What a lot of guys don't realize is that all like naturals like you or even like the Tates as a perfect example, you guys all say you repeat the same shit again and again and again to chicks. And I know you do because I've heard you and I've seen you do it. But you're so, like, it's not this fucking like, I think the misconception a lot of dudes had about like naturals, like the argument back in the day between like natural game versus like PUA scripted game is that like the naturals are coming up with these fucking Shakespearean sonnets every time they talk to a new chick. No, it's pattern recognition. It's like, oh, I said this shit and chick A laughed. Chick B said the same shit. I'm going to try it again. Oh, she laughed as well. Cool. Now I've got like a muscle memory response when this button is pushed.
I think a lot of it comes from like lived experience as well. People hate it when I use that term, but I'm just going to use it anyways. But it comes from lived experience as well. So like when I am dealing with like girls who are between the ages of like say 23 and 26 years old, I'm going to default to a different like kind of interaction with them, like a different attitude with them than I would say a woman who's like 40, right? Because I know what's expected of me as a guy who is in his early 50s right now from a woman who is 26 years old, right? They're looking to you for some sort of kind of some kind of wisdom. I talk about Muse mastery. It helps if you're an older guy using a Muse mastery because the expectation is that you've mastered something in your life by the time you get to where you're at. You're twice her age, right? So it helps if you're actually a master of something and therefore you can be amused by it. I see where you're going with this, honey, that kind of stuff. And so that's number one, but like, it's also understanding what she expects of me and what a guy of my age would expect of her. Right? Now I'm framing that in terms of like age, but also like, what would a guy who is the prize, if I'm the prize, then, or I'm the prince, then my time is valuable and you should know that my time is valuable. And so therefore that's going to color my interactions with that girl as well. So it's not only just knowing the girl's nature, but understanding what she believes of your nature as well. That can only come through lived experience. That can only come from having interacted with that kind of girl all the time. Like I get guys you get older guys who want to go into the clubs, who want to go and like they're newly divorced and they want to get back into the sexual marketplace, and they are completely unequipped because for the last 20 or so years they've been married and they don't know how to get back in the game again, and they never really knew how to get in the game back when they got with the girl, their wives in the first place. And now they seem awkward. They seem like the old guy in the club, right? They seem like they don't know what to do with themselves and they stumble and fumble all over themselves. The fact is for a guy who has made something of himself, has some money to his name, he can get back into the sexual marketplace. He just doesn't realize how to go about doing it because he doesn't know what she wants from him. He doesn't know how to interact with women's nature, and that nature that is expecting something from a guy that looks like him, talks like him, is in that demographic that he is in, that should have this knowledge. They're looking for that kind of mastery of that particular demographic. You're 34 years old. People know what you do. The girls that want to have sort of a relationship, or you're going to have turn them into a plate. They're going to want to get with you because they already know the deal. They already know what they're getting into. They look at you being as tall as you are, and you've got, you make your own money, and you're on top of your game, and you're in control. You're basically in control of your own world. That woman she has no choice but to enter into your frame, because there's no way anything she has is going to compare to the frame that you have. So when we talk about frame and we talk about like building a world into which that woman wants to enter into, that's how you hold frame and control frame. The unconscious understanding of that woman is, this is what I'm expecting from this guy. This is the congruency of what I'm expecting of a guy that looks like this, a guy that talks like this, a guy that drives this car, a guy that has this apartment, a guy that lives in Miami, a guy who's white, a guy who's a ginger, a guy who's black, a guy who's Latino, that whatever it is, there's that list of expectations, and understanding what works for you and understanding why that woman is attracted to you in the first place. that comes from lived experience. You have to have gone through that enough so that you understand how to internalize game. That's the very long way of saying all that.
I absolutely
Stop
agree.
me, please.
And I think
You got me monologuing.
but she also knows when you know. It's in your eyes.
Well, that's it. It's the just get it dynamic. I think that's in book number 1. Women want a guy who just gets it. They want a guy who knows that what his own self-worth is.
Right.
Does he just get it? And when the only way you can really fuck things up is if you prove to her that you don't get it.
Yeah.
That is something like guys don't understand is a lot of dudes
It sounds zen, doesn't it? It sounds like, you just get it. Yeah.
But like once a girl is attracted to you, you are the only thing in the world that can dissuade her of that.
Screw it up. Yep.
It's only you. So once a girl's actually into you, less is more.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of guys will talk themselves out of getting fucking laid
Mm-hmm.
all the goddamn time. And a lot of it is like them defaulting to like blue pill ideals or simpery or whatever because they don't know what to say. So a lot of time, just not saying a fucking thing, or not even responding to shit she says. In most cases, can actually help.
Old school PUA was the same way. It's like, presume the sale, presume it's already sold, and get the girl to do more of the talking than you do. It's not that you don't say so. Like you're not interacting, but it's like women love to talk about themselves.
Well, that's the irony. That's the irony. There is like, again, going back to this point I made before when I'm on dates and girls are like, a lot of guys, their biggest frustration with guys is that they don't know how to hold a conversation, right? What they actually don't know is how to get a girl to start talking and opening up about herself.
Mm-hmm.
That is because here's the thing, like that's the biggest irony of women is like on the first date, you can't get the fuckers to talk. And then once you're in a relationship, you can't get the fuckers to shut up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, all you got to do is figure out the first part
mm-hmm.
is like, how do I get this woman to talk about herself? Because they love talking about themselves. So that's when they say he's a good conversationalist, all he's doing is getting her to talk. But he's doing it in a way that's he's not making it sound like it's a fucking interview. Yeah. He's not making it sound like it's a goddamn job application. Yeah. He's getting to know me.
Well, the guy who just gets it is the guy who has probably got it in the past, right? Yeah. You're displaying behavioral cues. You're using language. You're conversing in such a way that's what she expects from a guy who already knows the nature of women. And the only way you know the nature of women is other women have pre-approved of you in the past. So when you assume some sort of familiarity, when you're the guys who have good game, learn that game early on, and women pick up on the behavioral cues that say, this is a guy that probably gets laid a lot. This guy is probably a guy. You don't even need third-party confirmation. You don't need social proof, and that's
what I was saying earlier.
You don't need social
proof, knows,
and you don't need pre-selection because the pre-selection is apparent in you. Just get it.
Exactly. I completely agree. They feel it's an energy. It's an energy that comes off of you, but you have to have reps. And as far as keeping reps. Yeah. And then as far as keeping the conversation going, all you're really doing is teeing her up to go on another talking spree. And you're being flirtatious, confident, observatory. You're listening to what she's saying, just like you would have a conversation with anyone else. And you say things that compliment or set them up to speak more. It's like when Stirling's interviewing someone, or you're having any conversation, or I come back and I speak on a topic that you just said for a minute, and then I ask you a question along that same lines. There's a flow to it. And I think that when a man can be comfortable in that flow and confident in that flow, especially in the beginning when maybe he's not all over her, I think that's very important, by the way, not putting too much pressure like on top of her to kind of have her come to you.
Yeah. Push pull.
You know, I explain another thing I explained to my nephew is like this, like every woman, and I think I've had this conversation with you before. Every woman since about the time that she starts her period has every man in her life outside of her brothers and her father trying to sleep with her. So it's like a boxer. And he's on the ropes and he's just dodging dicks, her whole life. I said, bro, if you really want to get a woman to be interested in you, be that guy and then be the first, like throw a little feint out and then don't throw haymakers. The first thing she's going to do is drop her fucking hands and you hit her right on the fucking chin. Sleep. Because every man in her life is aggressively trying to sleep with her. So if you're calm, you open doors, you have good conversation. She's like, what is it that makes him so kind to me?
And why doesn't he want it so much as everybody else?
And why isn't he chasing? Boom, hands drop, bip, right on the chin, bro.
Well, there is a, and this is old school PUA 101, is the idea of getting women to qualify to you rather than you qualify to them, because exactly what you're saying, the 80%, 90% of guys are going, hey, can I buy you a drink? You know, like, how can I qualify to you? Look at me. I've got all this great stuff. I got this, I got that, I got this. And they're trying to prove their quality to milady, right? For lack of a better term. It's the guy that says, hey, why don't you buy me a drink? You know, it's the guy, it's the purple cow theory, right? You got a field of brown cows and there's one purple cow and that's the one that stands out.
Scarcity. That's
the one you're going to say, what's up with that purple cow over there, right?
Which is funny because girls will DM you and they'll say, there's something about you that's interesting to me. And always translate that to, I know.
Because she has to qualify to you. She's coming to you rather than you going to her. And that's and that is novel for women, particularly attractive women who have a lot of options and the guy. And the reason why it is because if the guy is somebody that she has to qualify to, there's something something that is about you that she feels like she needs to qualify is your behavioral sets are those of a guy who gets laid, are those of a guy who has pre-selection. You would not have developed those, whether they're conscious or subconscious, you would not have developed those behaviors that manifest if you weren't already successful with a lot of other women. That's why, like, cocky and funny and arrogance, like to a point, not like, overbearing arrogance, but like that sense of arrogance, that sense of self-importance, that sense of I'm the prize, the cocky funny thing that's been around for forever. The reason why that's attractive is because those are behavioral cues that guys who get laid display, because they don't care one way or the other whether you get laid with her or the 4 other girls who are in my rotation right now. Absolutely. Because once you have the confidence of options, and confidence is derived from having those options, you will behave in a way that you won't even realize that you're manifesting. You as a guy, if you know you've got 4 girls on speed dial, you got 4 girls in rotation right now, and you're trying to get with the 5th and she doesn't pan out, I don't care. I'm going to take more chances. I'm going to experiment more. I'm going to want you to qualify to me, because if you don't, one of these 4 here are going to be sucking my dick tonight. So, but you don't really realize that until you have those options. You have the confidence that come from that, and then the confidence manifests in your behaviors and your speech pattern. That's why it's much easier to be cocky and funny, amuse mastery, all this. The formal pickup artist game is much easier if you already know that it's worked on several other girls in the past, and you're going to behave differently. That's why high value men behave differently, because who to look up for that?
Oh, I guess that's probably what he's asking. Like,
is that what he's asking?
What maybe he missed out the word you.
Okay, well,
he's probably saying, what PO would you recommend someone?
Well, first,
who hadn't experienced.
Mystery is always the default. He's always the go-to mystery method. But go look at the old stuff. Don't look at the new stuff. Don't bother with the new stuff. Just go back to, like, say 2003, 2004, and look at Venusian Arts and look at like Mystery Method. And a lot of that stuff, remember, that's kind of proto red pill, I guess. It's like before any of the manosphere really existed. It's before we even were really calling it red pill all that much. Definitely him. Nick Krauser's a good one too, because he's old school. But again, go look at the older stuff. I don't know. The best place I can say to start with is if you want to, like, sort of get a foundational understanding, just go look at what Mystery was doing back in the day. It's a good.
I want to say one thing. On that confidence piece, I think it is.
Now people are going to say, well, that doesn't apply to me now. It's like, yeah, well, it doesn't, but the foundations do. And I think that's one of the criticisms of game that I think is maybe a little bit unfair right now. People go, well, they didn't have Instagram back in 2004, blah, blah, blah. It's just not the same conditions. Yeah, I know. but the founding principles and the reason why it works didn't change. It's
It's
just
all
the
the same.
context changed.
Yeah.
Like how you apply it certainly absolutely has changed.
Now,
But
now,
the foundation still worked very well.
Instagram game
Yeah.
is really, really important
Exactly.
nowadays,
Oh,
for
yeah.
example.
Again, brand management, right? It's
Um,
sales funnel dating.
Gentlemen, where can everybody find? Where's the best place for people to find you, Rolo?
Oh,
I will drop. Actually, I'm going to.
you just put me. Everybody knows where I am.
I'm gonna drop for anyone who's been living under a rock and doesn't know about Rollo Tomasi's YouTube channel. I'm dropping the link for it right now in the chat. Go follow him out there. And my man Jay Waller, who's just started his first YouTube channel, he'll be talking about a whole bunch of different stuff. His
Sub to
Jay's channel, and there's also right here in the chat just now as well. Where else can these fine people follow you and find you?
So number one is I'm I'm probably the most active on Twitter. So like if you want to get in touch with me on Twitter, I am Rollo Tomasi at Rational Mail. Of course, the Rational Mail blog is going to celebrate 10 years of existence on the 19th of October, which is next week. So
Nice.
that's
Wait,
at
19th of October.
19th of August, I should
August,
say.
okay.
August. And the book actually will be 9 years old on October 1st.
Excellent.
But the blog will celebrate 10 years blogiversary on the 19th of August. So that's therationalmail.com. That's everybody knows where that is. And then I am on YouTube. Just look up the Rational Mail. I'm there. I also have a clips channel now too, so you don't have to like sit through these long, got me monologuing. So yeah, and thank you, Tom, for doing those. It's actually exploding too. I'm glad everybody likes the clips channel. So that's going on right now. And then what else? Oh, we're part of Rule Zero, as you know, every Saturday at 11:30 a.m. Except for this Saturday, we weren't on because of obvious reasons. But that's we pass that around quite a bit. I want you to host too, by the way, at some point. And then let's see. Oh, you can find all four of my books right now on Amazon.com. Just look up The Rational Mail on Amazon.com. And you'll find all four, which is weird to say four now. And then let's see. I'm working with Kevin Savo. Look up Savaho on YouTube. You'll find it. And and then also look up Trial of Ascension, which is my band on Spotify and YouTube.
Justin, where can everybody find you? I've dropped your YouTube link in the chat.
Yeah, just from there, it'd be J Waller 7J and then Waller 7. And you can also find me. Sterling and I have a YouTube channel about all of our adventures.
I'm gonna actually,
So we'll drop that in the link as well.
I'll do that right now.
Adventure channel.
Yeah.
It is.
So
Well, you were on the most recent episode.
Yeah.
that's right.
Am I? Oh yeah.
Let's go on fishing. Bang.
It is.
All right, that's it in the chat there. And I see we got a whole bunch. We got a big crowd tonight. Thank you very much for supporting us, guys. And it looks like from what I was reading in the chat, well, you guys came across from Fresh and Fit. Thank you so much for jumping on and joining the channel and tuning in today. Subscribe to this channel if you're new here. I put up conversations like this all the time with all kinds of different guys.
Influencers.
I don't like calling them that. Authors, coaches, guys I just genuinely find interesting who talk about masculinity and issues that I think are important to men, basically. So check out this channel for a bunch of stuff like that. I also give out a ton of free bedroom advice. Bedroom advice is my kind of main niche if you're brand new to this channel. These are sort of more for my own personal enjoyment because I like these conversations. But for you guys, I give out a ton of free short form content about how to lay pipe properly. So subscribe to the channel for that. And obviously leave a like, leave a comment if you enjoyed something. If you found something we talked about today that was kind of controversial, you disagree with us, by all means, I read all the comments on my YouTube videos. So drop them down below and we'll check them out and get back to you later. Thank you once again for joining us. Rollo Tomasi, Jay Waller.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Stirling Kuba. And you guys enjoy your night.